9, 8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Christopher, a.k.a. the Bronze Age Nerd, and
Brian, a.k.a. Big B McFly, the comic guy.
And we are your hosts for Best Coast Comics. Welcome to the show. We have another awesome show planned for you this week. We're going to be talking about some really interesting and fun topics, including stuff like creator control, which we've talked about before, about how a character is created and who gets credit for that, with Roy Thomas, yet again. We're talking about AI comic books, yet again. But we're also doing some other really cool, fun things, like talking to Dan Wickline, who'll be on the show a little bit later, about his new comic book he has coming out. And at the very end of the show, we're actually going to do a spoiler Deadpool and Wolverine review and our reactions to it with all the fun spoilers. Don't worry, that'll be at the very end of the show. We'll give you all the opportunities to bail if you haven't seen the movie yet, and we won't do any spoilers before that happens. But yeah, that's what we're going to do at the end of the show. So that should be really fun to finally get a chance to talk about it, talk about everything in there. So that's going to be really cool. Along those lines, this is a giveaway show. So we do have our giveaway this week. We are giving away this awesome Joseph Michael Linsner, Black Cat, Wolverine, Claws. I'm going to hold it up to the camera so you get a little bit better look at the art there. And I'm super original.
You don't see Linsner do the Marvel characters too much. So
definitely not. Definitely not. This was kind of nice. And to go along with me being super original, Claws, hashtag Claws, all you got to do is type that into chat, and you get a chance to win this book, along with some other freebies that I'll throw in. And that's going to be really fun. So definitely make sure you get a chance to enter in for that comic book. We're going to say hi to everybody in chat real fast. GT Key Comic is here. Absolutely awesome. Thank you for being here. We got Shadow Rat. And we have What's on the Comic Rack here as well. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm sure more people will bounce in and we'll say hello as needed. So we had a fun weekend already. You may have seen it earlier. I know we wanted to talk about that a little bit up front at the top of the show. So Brian, do you want to tell everybody what we did the other day?
I thought we said that was going to be a secret. Oh, wait. Oh, that.
No, the other thing.
Yeah. Bronze and I got to hang out in the Big B McFly Batcave, and we did a live claim sale, and it was great. It was awesome. It was fun. At one point, Bronze and I looked at each other, and Bronze goes, "How long have we been doing this?" And he goes, "No way. It says we've been doing it for 3 hours." And we're like, "It only feels like we've been doing it for like an hour. We're just having so much fun." So it was really cool. And thanks to everybody who showed up and bought stuff, and hopefully you guys can come in and do it next time if you didn't make it this last time, and join us, because it was super fun.
Yeah, it was a really good time. I had a lot of fun doing it. I just wanted to give everybody an update of where we're at with the claim sale shipping stuff, because I know some people are going to be watching and they're going to be curious. About half the people are packed up, and those orders are going to ship out tomorrow. Either that, or you were you were lucky enough to be a local delivery, so we can get your books that way. Of the other half, about a quarter have they've been invoiced, and we're waiting for their payments, and then we'll ship out their stuff. And the other quarter, you have a lot of books. You had a lot of comic books, and so I was taking a little extra time to make sure I pack those up securely, get those out to you, and I want to make sure I get the weight and the dimensions of whatever box I end up in right to protect all that expensive paper nice and correct for you to get you that invoice. So that'll probably be going out probably in the next 24 hours. So everybody should have their stuff out by about Wednesday, I hope, unless they've made special arrangements with us. So it's fun stuff.
I'll be doing the Santa Claus deliveries tomorrow.
The Santa Claus deliveries. I love that. Here just in a second, we're going to be bringing on a guest that we have for the show. We are going to be talking about a new comic book coming out. Before anything else going on in your life, Big B, that we needed to talk about before we get into the heart of the show?
Man, I know, like, we both had like really rough weeks last night, so it was really nice to do the claim sale and hang out together. Like, I almost broke my thumb. Just had terrible time at work and a bunch of other awful stuff, and so it was just nice to And Bronze kept messaging me, "Are you sure? Maybe we should cancel. Maybe we should cancel." And I was just like, "No, man, I need this. I just need to be done."
Yeah, 100%. Like it was one of those things where it was a very important and needed time to hang out, talk about comic books, be around comic books, and just one of those evidences. That's why I end most of my recorded videos with read comic books every day, because it helps.
It does. It's very nice to have that distraction and that escape.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of escapes and getting to some awesome comic books, we're going to be talking to a guest who I'm going to bring into the show right now. I just want to make sure I get a thumbs up from them, make sure they're ready to go from our backstage area, and it looks like they are. So, folks, I want everybody to welcome in the fantastic, the extraordinary Mr. Dan Wickline.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Fantastic. How about yourself, sir?
Doing well. I was told that because I have a beard, I needed to appear on the show.
That's right.
Yeah. I think there's like contractual obligations that happen. If you have glasses and a beard, you're pretty much required to be here at some point.
Yep. That's what I was told. So
awesome. Well, so real fast, we have a few things we're going to talk to you about, but what I really want to make sure we can mention right out of the gate, the main reason that you're here tonight is you have a crowdfunding campaign going on right now for Karma Volume 2. And I'll go ahead and I'll share the backer kit. I don't think I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom on this one because, folks, this is a little bit of it's an adult theme book. It's an erotic book, a little spicier on the not safe for work side. So what I'll show, I'll make sure is safe for work. Just keep in mind, if you go visit this page, you might want to do it when you make sure there's no family members around or whatever that might be underage, that kind of thing. But hey, we love those kind of comics books too. So we're going to talk about that real fast. So this is the backerkit.com link, which, by the way, there is a link in the description below if you want to go check this out on your own right now or a little bit later on. And so, Dan, you're the man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Karma Volume 1 and what we have going on with Karma Volume 2?
All right. Karma is a romantic, kind of a romantic comedy set in a very strange world. Many people know that I'm a comic writer. I've been doing comic writing for 25, close to 30 years. I'm an old guy. But I also spent about 20 of those years as a model photographer. And I worked with various people from Playboy models to what would be now OnlyFans, though they didn't have OnlyFans back in that day. And had some pretty interesting adventures, some very strange situations that to this group of people, to this industry, is completely normal because it's a completely different world, nudity and sexuality and all that is completely open. And I'm trying to navigate this world as, not used to that. So I took some of those stories and I combined it with the idea of a romance. In this case, Alex is a advertising photographer, the guy that makes ice cream look good in a magazine, but they do that by taking scoops of mashed potatoes instead because ice cream melts under hot lights, that type of photographer. And he fills in for a buddy of his on a photo shoot with an up-and-coming model named Karma. And there's some sparks. There's a little meet cute where he catches her before she trips over some cables. She likes his approach to photography because he does have a different style than most of the people in that industry. So she gets to work with him again and sparks fly. And the first book is them navigating not only the beginnings of a relationship and the whole fish out of water aspect. I mean, not only do you have a guy who has never been in this type of world before, but she's never been in a more straight-laced world too. She has a girlfriend as well and open relationships and all that stuff. So again, they're both coming at it from different worlds.
Yeah.
And the first volume ends with them realizing that they do love each other and it's a relation, they want to try to make it work. Volume 2 picks up pretty much after that and continues the relationship, but as a lot of people know, just getting to the point where you're having a relationship is the easy part. Then there's all the outside sources, and there's all the people. Your exes start coming back, you know, job problems, career problems, financial problems. It all shifts around, and you have to try to still continue to navigate this new relationship while you've got, you know, all this stuff going on. And in their case, they also have this former child star turned pop star who gets dropped in the middle of their relationship, who seems to cause chaos and havoc no matter where she goes.
Yeah.
And continues to do that here. And you might, you know, recognize her as a certain type of person, you know, when you read the book. But and then it has all the nudity and eroticism and sexuality that goes with it as well. But it makes a lot of sense because that's the world that she lives in and that he is now part of. And this is more, you know, where the first one was them finding the connection. This is him trying to find his place in this world and her deciding just how much she feels for him, that type of thing. So
nice. Very cool. And I have one burning question for you, Dan. And this is something I'm always curious about when I talk to
you.
You
should see your doctor for that.
That's true. And I do have an appointment scheduled, so thankfully we're all covered there. No, but I do have a question about being somebody who writes. You've written a lot of different types of comic books, of course, but occasionally, obviously, dipping the toes into kind of the erotic or adult or not safe for work side of comic books. Is there ever any? Do you ever feeling like professional pushback or any kind of like? Because we've talked about like the war on adult comic books, which is something I've kind of noticed before, which is there is almost like a segment of comic book fans that wants to almost kind of reject part of something. It's been in the history of comic books for as long as there's been comic strips. There have been adult themed comics, but I have noticed there's a segment of the readership that kind of pushes against that. And of course, there's a segment that is very much a fan of that. So have you kind of noticed any pushes and pulls in your professional career with that?
I haven't, just simply because of the approach I took. And I think this is why it worked for me and doesn't work for everybody, is because, I mean, I started off publishing my own books in the 90s, but then I started getting freelance work and I started doing stuff for like Metal Hurlant, Avatar, IDW. So I started doing some spicy stuff for Avatar, but, you know, I did 30 Days a Night. I did, you know, those kind of books. And I was doing a lot of work with Steve Niles. And we partnered on things, and I started getting pigeonholed as a horror writer because for some reason, everybody wants to pigeonhole writers as a type of writer, and comics is the one industry you don't have to be. You know, Stephen King is known as a horror writer, but he did a great Western. He did The Colorado Kid is a great noir. He did A Christmas Story. You know, Agatha Christie did A Christmas Story.
He did a time travel story.
Yeah. So you get these kind of things. Well, so in comics, you don't have to be that way. Nobody asks, I was going to use a name who's kind of on the outs right now. Nobody asked James Tynion, you know, oh, well, you're doing horror with something killing the children. How can you write Batman? Good save. So, you know, so for me, you know, I've written Shadowhawk, I've written Vampirella, I've written all these other things. Formal petition for thanks, Jay. So no, I'm not too worried about it, but there are other people who have done it as well, like Howard Chaykin. Howard Chaykin's known for American Flag and all these great stuff. And then he puts out Black Kiss. And it's, you know, total erotic, totally out there. You know, Frank Miller wanted to do a bondage story with Wonder Woman. You know, and of all the characters to do one with, she's kind of set up for it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Marston kind of did. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily think I'll get that kind of pushback just because I do so much different type of writing. I mean, if you Google me or if you look me up on Amazon, you're going to find 2 kids' books.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, my photography books and stuff like that. So
absolutely. And I think Jay had a great comment here. I've said a few times, even if the book wasn't a spicy book, Dan wrote a killer story with substance. And I think that's the kind of thing too that I've said before. Like we just mentioned horror comics, for example. I'm not actually generally a fan of horror comics. However, the really good ones, I don't care that they're horror comics because they're still good stories. They're still good comics. And that's the difference. So I think that's really cool. It's a really good way to put it. So that's, yeah, it's just also something I'm curious about when I talk, like I've talked to Tim Seeley and a few other people that have kind of written stuff that's on the little bit more mature side. And I'm always curious about that. So I appreciate you answering that question. That's something that I was really curious about.
no problem.
So when it comes to Karma Volume 2, which again, I'll throw up the page again. I won't scroll down too far on the page, folks, because I don't want anybody getting in trouble as they're watching the show. I want to keep it family friendly, even if we are talking about mature topics. I do recommend going and checking it out, though. I think there's some really good art in this particular story. Yes. So when it comes to Karma Volume 2, could you tell us what you're most excited about with this story?
Partly is we got the entire creative team back. With the same cover artists and everything. So we've got Stepan Sejic on both volumes. We've got Mirka Andolfo on both volumes. Michael D. Pascal doing covers on both volumes. But also Carlos Renault, who I am stunned that he is not doing more at some of the bigger companies.
Yeah.
Because the guy is just phenomenal, consistent, good-looking pages. So, yeah, I am very pleased with that and excited about that. But also, because some of the events of the story are things that happened to me or taken from moments or little asides, or even some of the dialogue I borrow from situations, it means a lot to me to have that out there because I don't want to say it's autobiographical because first thing, I do not look like Alex looks in the book. Would love to look like Alex looks in the book, but I don't. And definitely Alex is doing much better than I did. But it is a little bit biographical in the sense that I get to tell these stories in a unique way. You know, I get to tell. Great example. In the first book, there is a model that Alex is talking to, and they're having this very heart-to-heart conversation. She's a friend of Karma's, and they're in her apartment, and she needs to get ready. And she's like, okay, I need to take a shower. Come with me. And basically has him stand in the bathroom, continuing the conversation while she's taking a shower, glass doors, the whole thing. I lived that life. I had a best friend a really good friend who was on the Playboy channel for a while, did modeling, stuff like that. And anytime I went over to her house and hung out, there was at least some point during the day or night that she would end up naked. And if she needed to take a shower, I was expected to go into the bathroom and just talk to her while she was taking a shower. And it's you have those John McClane moments where you almost have to turn to the camera because if there was an audience going, can you believe this? and those are some of my fun things to do in comics. I've been doing those for years. When I wrote Sinbad for Zenoscope, I was doing it and I was trying to get a feel for the character and stuff. And then I had this moment where he's like hanging on the back of a dragon by one of the fins, holding a girl by his arm, trying to hang on. And he looks up and goes, "Stop squirming. This isn't as easy as it looks." And to me, that was a John McClane moment. That was that realism brought into this totally absurd situation, and it grounds it for the readers. And I love those moments. And that's, I put those in here too. He's got a best friend named Eddie who every once in a while he'll listen to his problems and goes, "These are not real world problems. These are alternative reality problems."
It's even better than first world problems.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but laugh at Comic Trip's comment. Small world. That happens whenever someone hangs with Bronze Age Nerd too. He means it more in the sense that I'm in the shower again. But it's actually funny. I was on a road trip with Bigby going to a Comic-Con, and I told him a story that wasn't too dissimilar from something like that happening to me.
Mhm.
That is this thing that happens sometimes in the world. And where I would like to go with that is it's fun when you do read a comic book and you can tell that, well, sometimes you can't tell, but you can tell that there is like this real grounded aspect of the story when moments like that pop up. And I suppose sometimes you might think, oh, that might be something that really happened to the writer. And then sometimes they get asked at cons, they're like, no, actually, I made that up for the story. But sometimes those are real tidbits as well. And it kind of keeps you wondering as you're reading, because it helps the story feel more real, more grounded in reality. And that's especially when you're telling stories like this, I think that's pretty important. So that's really cool to hear the insight there, of how it can kind of have echoes of things that actually happened. And one of the things I noticed is on your social media, you've been going through and sharing some of kind of the tidbits and snippets and photos from that kind of that part of your life. That's been really fun to follow along with. Do you want to share anything about that or tell us about that?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, when you do a Kickstarter or a backer kit in this case, you're constantly going out there going, hey, have you seen it? Have you checked the link? And to me, I have a problem with that. I have a problem bugging people to follow a link and all that. So, I mean, this is not, I have not done that many crowdsourced books. So I figured if I was going to be on there every day and saying, hey, look at this book, will you? Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. I thought, well, I should at least give everybody something nice to look at. So I started posting some of the photos of the models I worked with. And sadly, I have to keep it tame because of, all these sites are very restricted.
Yeah.
Because some of my favorite shots I can't post, But I've been going through and doing different models. And I've had 2 different models reach out to me and literally post, do me. And I'm like, you'd like me to post your photos, right? That's what you're
Are we not doing phrasing anymore?
Otherwise, my girlfriend's probably going to have to come along, which is not a deal breaker, but
yeah, that is why we need only Dan's. That would be.
But yeah, so like I said, I had 2 different. One of them is not actually a model. One is someone I met on Twitter who liked my work and asked me one time if I would be willing to shoot with her. I'm like, sure. She came over, we did a shoot, and somehow we became really good friends from that. And we've kept in touch for, I want to say it's close to 20 years now, And she was like, oh, put some of mine up. I'm like, okay, I wasn't going to do yours because they weren't official model shoots. We didn't.
Yeah.
I said, but if you want them, she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Right on. That's really cool. Yeah. And by the way, I've been dominating this conversation with Dan here. Big B, do you have anything you want to jump in and ask Dan?
I was going to say, it sounds like a bonus book to be made there with all the bonus material about the model sheets and stuff. That sounds like a pretty cool, maybe stretch goal or something like that.
I thought about that, but I thought about it kind of late in the campaign. I think Jay's my hype man now.
Jay's a very good hype man, so that's you want him in your corner.
Yeah, but yeah, I've thought about that, or thought about trying to find a way to get the photos out there. I do have 3 photography books on Amazon, and they collect specific models. Carly Aaron, Liz Ashley, and Carrie Taylor. Thought about doing more, and then I also had a collection of black and white nudes published by Goliath Publishing over in Europe back in the early 2000s. So I do have some work out there, and you can find online.
Nice.
Yeah, it would be cool, like if you were able to put like a supplementary chapter at the back of each book or something like that, with just some photos and some anecdotes or something. That'd be kind of neat.
I actually wanted to do like a photo cover or something, but the problem is once you put somebody on the cover as Karma, it changes everything.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like the Jaws and Shark. The less you see of a real person, the more that people are going to make her their standard of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, for those of us that are maybe just joining us, I do want to point out we do have the link is in the description below if you want to go check out the backer kit right now for Karma Volume 2. Dan is our guest. He is the writer and creator, and absolutely definitely wanted to talk to him about this. It was an exciting campaign. I got to put my money where my mouth is. I like all kinds of different types of comics. I think this kind of stuff is really fun too, the erotic comics. And like Jay said in chat earlier, it's not just that it's an erotic comic, but that is almost kind of part of the story, the makeup, the set piece. But that's not all it is too, which is a very important thing to point out. I don't think people should go to this knowing it's not just pretty art; it's also great words too. So definitely check it out. But it is also very pretty art, and I mean that literally. You're talking about some of the Stefan Subject, Mirka Andolfo. I mean, these are fantastic artists. So definitely go check it out for those reasons as well too. And it looks like I did see that you did cross the goal line here.
We did.
Yeah, and I know we have a little time left in the campaign. Just really about 65 hours it looks like left. So, what kind of push are we hoping for here, and what kind of stuff can we expect in the future if we hit that goal that you're thinking of in your head?
Well, the next goal that's listed is when we did the first book, we did trading cards or these some of the more erotic scenes from the book, and there was 3 of them, and they got at different levels, and those went over very well. You can actually add. We have some left. You can add those on. There's a lot of things you can add on to this project as well, but we have some of those cards, and then I don't know if we'll get to it, but there is also a tier that a stretch goal that will turn all the books hardcover.
Nice.
And I would love to hit that. We hit that with the first one, and I'm loving what Backer Kit is doing, but people don't know it as well as Kickstarter. They're trying to build up. So I think it's, there's 20, they're doing this thing, Comictopia. There's 27 different books. Every publisher has a partner publisher. So ours is American Mythology. If you back our book and American Mythology, then you get a set of tarot cards, one of each of the main characters. You get Karma on a tarot card. And I cannot remember the name of their book, but their main character on a tarot card too. Their card is done by the artist Lyrics, and ours is the Stepan Sejic cover. There's also another book that's done with all 27 of the different publishers that are part of this project, where each one did a page, and it kind of goes through all the books. Nice. And I think if you back 5 or 6 different Comictopia books, then you can get that's added in.
That sounds cool.
So yeah, Backer Kit's doing this great thing trying to promote it, but I think being that it's the first time, and people think of Backer Kit, they think of it's the add-on to Kickstarter. It's where you go and you give your information, and they're trying to become the full service, and it's just going to take a while to really build up, because a lot of people I talked about, I post a link then to go, I've never heard of Backer Kit. Like, well, yeah, it's good. It's, so there's that little hump to get over too. So
that can be difficult sometimes. Like some people only go with what they've known in the past, but I mean, hey, there are a lot of good crowdfunding comic book sites out there. Some have, varying degrees of popularity, but it's nice to see. I love seeing competition in the space. Hopefully this is successful. Hopefully Comictopia is successful, and we see another good place to advertise and run comics. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And I've had an opportunity to do a few live streams with some of the other creators, Fabrice Sapolsky from Fair Square Graphics, or Dave Franchini from Zenoscope, Mr. Fish Comics, Fish Lee, who's another guy that should be on here because he's got the beard and glasses.
We've got to add him to the club.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great people that we've had a chance to just do live streams with and talk about each other's books and get people attention. So that's one aspect I've never seen on Kickstarter. In Kickstarter, it's every man for himself. Here's a knife. Good luck.
Yeah.
Where
100
this one-
comic creators enter, one man leave, kind of thing.
yeah, where this one's like, everybody hold hands, we're going to make it together.
Mm-mm.
Nice. That's good. I like the synergy
Cool.
aspect of that. That's really cool. Well, we did have Dan for kind of a shorter segment on the show tonight. It's getting a little late for many of our viewers and some of our guests. So I did want to make sure we talked about that. I do want to. Is there anything coming up that you want to tease? I mean, obviously, we want people to focus on going back in Karma Volume 2 right now, or at least go check it out and see what you think. I think a lot of you will be surprised by what you see in a very good way. And is there anything else that coming out that we should know about on the horizon for Dan Wickline?
Yeah, I have been working with. By the way, I'm on the West Coast too, so
Oh, okay, nice.
not too bad for me over here.
That's good.
I have been working with a company called Ethereal Comics, and they're crowdfunded only as well. That's their, how they get their publications out. Though they are in some, I think like a half dozen to a dozen stores across the country. And I've been doing writing for them. I've also kind of picked up the art director job and, look over all the pages and yell at the colorists and stuff like that. And but I have 2 books that will be coming out from them. These have already gone through their Kickstarters, but there's going to be more. One is Morgana Le Fay,
Nice.
where we take a look at the Arthurian legends from Morgana's point of view, that she's the heroine, and like her father Uther is not a nice guy. Her brother Arthur, or half brother Arthur, is the offspring of rape. I mean, it's just totally turns the table on that. Merlin's a bastard. We have fun with that. And
Nice.
I'm also doing
That
a
sounds
book.
cool.
Yeah. And then we're also doing a book called Crimson Sails that's kind of supernatural pirate series
Ooh.
with female pirates.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
That
And
does sound cool.
that one's a little more NSFW,
Okay.
where,
Okay.
yeah, where Morgana has some nudity in it, but it's more tame. Ethereal has kind of, if you look at an Ethereal book, they have their logo has flames in it. If the flames are blue, there's going to be some mild nudity, but that's about it. If the flames are red, all bets are off. Yeah.
I like it. I'm going to be looking for the red flames, especially on that. That sounds really fun to match the Crimson Sails. No, that's really cool. And before we do let you go, though, I do want to mention one more time. Show the Karma Volume 2 page over here on Backer Kit. Like I said, the link is in the description below. Please go check it out. Go support Dan. I think he's. By the way, that's the other thing we should talk about. Sicko's, you're a little off, Sicko, here, but Dan is actually on the EXP as well. That's the other thing we should probably mention too. So you have some shows you do on the EXP. Do you want to remind everybody when your shows run?
Yeah, I do. I do kind of a news recap on Tuesdays. I used to do 3 shows a week, and that became a little much coming up with all the programming and stuff. So we cut it back where I do a news recap on Tuesday that's recorded, and we run that during the morning. So if you've missed on the latest news and stuff, it's a great way to catch up in 10, 15 minutes. And then Thursday, I do a full show at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And it's cleverly called the Dan Wickline Show. And what I do is I'll do again, I'll recap the news from Tuesday to then. And then I usually pick a topic discussing stuff like we broke down the San Diego Comic-Con announcements, or one of my favorites had to be looking at Matt Reeves' The Batman as a film noir, and if it was the first ever true film noir superhero movie.
That's cool.
And I broke down the rules of noir and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then to follow that up, I did one about the upcoming Penguin series as basically a gangster film, or a gangster series. So I did breakdowns like that. Also, I tried writing a comic on air, or not a comic, but an actual pitch for Marvel on a Jack of Hearts series. And I got all my viewers to chip in ideas. So
right on.
That's cool.
No, that's really fun. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that too, because something that we didn't mention at the top of the show, usually I do, is we are not just streaming. If you happen to be watching on my channel, thank you. But we are streaming on a couple other channels as well, including Big B McFly, the Comic Book Guys channel, and over on the EXP, where you can catch those shows Dan was just talking about. Guess what? I included the links to the EXP and to Big B's channel, all in the description below. You can go get all of your information down there. And then, yeah, just one last time, definitely go check out Karma Volume 2. It's something, you got a few hours left to go back this. Make sure you get in there, check it out. If it looks like it's for you or something that you want to check out, I highly recommend getting to read some of Dan's work. I think you're going to be very excited with what happens, and can't wait for the successful launch here. Congratulations on hitting the first goal, and hopefully we can take this into all the stretch goals as we get down to the final hours here.
Thank you. I just want to one thing I want to throw out there. Yes, this is volume 2, but if you missed volume 1, there are ways to add on volume 1 in the backer kit. And also, if you're a digital reader and you prefer a PDF version, that's an option. And we have a bundle on there that's both volumes as a PDF at a little bit cheaper price. We had somebody approach us in the comments saying, "Hey, can you do a bundle of those two?" And I'm like, "Let me check." Ran it up to the top, came back down. Yes, we can. So
nice.
That got added, and people are jumping on that one. So
Very cool.
Yeah, so something for everybody, no matter how you read your comic books, digital, physical, combination of both. There's going to be something there for you. I'm very excited to check out more of Karma. I can't wait to see more. I really am happy that you came on the show and talked to us a little bit about it, Dan. I really appreciate that. I've wanted to have you on for a while. I do enjoy watching your show whenever I get a chance to catch it. And I hope everybody goes and follows Dan Wickline's shows. Follow him on social media. Check out some of that photography I was talking about earlier that he's been sharing. That was kind of some of the inspiration for some of the stories that we're hearing about in Karma. And also, please go remember to go back Karma Volume 2.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate being on here, and I love the new show. So
awesome. Thanks, Dan. All right. Well, you have a fantastic night, and we'll be talking to you again soon, probably.
All right, guys. You take care.
Later. All right. That was really fun. Yeah, Dan's a cool guy. I highly recommend. I first kind of learned about his take on things from watching his shows on the XP when I joined up on the XP. So I do recommend going and checking out his shows to get a sense of who he is, other than just that small chunk he got in the interview we did with him. And then last time I'll mention it until the end of the show, but we do have that link down below if you want to go check out the backer kit we were talking about for Karma Volume 2. Sweet. All right, cool. I keep getting thrown off because for some reason we have a little private chat in the background, and for some reason the notice that I have a new message there just doesn't go away no matter how many times I check it. So I keep thinking there's something new back there. So that was fun. So we're going to take our first ad break here because we finished up with our guest. So again, if you're watching us on one of Big B or Maya's channels, thank you very much for doing that. But there's something that's going on right now. We're streaming over on the EXP. And over on the EXP, we have some sponsors that we want to make sure we take care of. And so we're going to check out some cool advertisements for other shows on the EXP, as well as some comic books. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes, and we'll check you out here in a second with more comic book news on Best Coast Comics.
Order Battle Quest comics at your local comic shop today.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into the experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into the experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Best Coast Comics. I am your host, Christopher, a.k.a. the Bronze Age Nerd, and this is your host,
Big B McFly, the comic guy.
And together we are over here on the Best Coast, holding it down for all the comic book news, comic book conversation of the week. And I think up until a couple days ago, the next story we're going to talk about may have been the biggest story.
Right.
But since it's about Wolverine, I want to remind everybody that we are doing a free giveaway. I will scroll at the bottom of the screen telling you to enter hashtag Claus into the chat. And you should probably do that because you get a chance to win the Joseph Michael Linsner Black Cat Wolverine team-up book. It's a hardcover donated by Big Me McFly, the comic book guy, called Claus. Great.
Love the art on the back of that book. You should show that
Yeah.
back. That is so cool.
Very cool. So definitely, you definitely get a chance to win that by entering that chat. It's a free giveaway. If you do win, please make sure you message us after the show with your address so we can get that sent out to you, and I'll load up your box with goodies. The last couple winners are probably still waiting for theirs. Those are going out with some of our claim sale packages. So you be a little patient on those freebies. They might take a little bit longer to go out, but trust me, they're worth it once they come because you didn't pay for them. So why not? But yeah, so I'm going to bring up this article here from the Hollywood Reporter that we're going to talk about next. And that is something that I think this was the biggest piece of news over the last week. It kind of happened right after our last show. So we made that topic for this week. And then some other big stuff did happen. We've actually talked about this. Kyle, my old co-host for Devil's Advocates, and I talked about this creator credit thing with Roy Thomas wanting credit for creating Wolverine before. And I will admit, at the time, I had a very different opinion on it because I wanted to give some benefit of the doubt because there was some stuff about Roy Thomas that's been around for a while where he contributed the name. He contributed the fact that Wolverine was Canadian and that he was a short, aggressive kind of character. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Welcome to the show. By the way, I didn't get a chance to say hello to Who's the 86 earlier. I'm very sorry to hear about your collection being stolen, by the way. Whoosy, that's really terrible. I'm glad you're still reading comics, and hopefully you find your love for collecting them again at some point if you're interested in doing that. Sorry about that. Hey,
good to see Jen in the chat.
Yes. Yeah. I was trying to mention that if I saw her in the chat again, but if you guys don't know, I really recommend going and following Comics Will Break Your Heart. Like over on Instagram, for example, is a great place to go follow her. That's something that we've spoken about before together, Big B and I and other people here on the EXP as well. And we've got some fundraisers for as she is in a fight against cancer right now. So definitely go show her some love and support on her page. 5'6". Did he suggest he was 5'6"? Because 5'3" is what Wolverine's height is. So either way, yeah, he's not a tall man. Which we might talk about later in the show as we discuss our spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine, but that'll be at the end of the show.
That topic could come up.
That topic it might. I don't know. I don't know until then. So I'm going to scroll to the relevant part of this article. If I can find that paragraph again. So here's kind of the salient point. He's talking about the co-creators, Lynn in the credits of 2017's Logan, Lynn Wein, John Romita, and I all deserved official co-creator status on Deadpool and Wolverine, just as the two co-creators of Deadpool have enjoyed. Editor's note, on Logan, Thomas was part of a list of thank yous. Oh, sure, I strongly feel my name should have come first, not last, in the Wolverine grouping, since the Wolverine character was my concept on which Len and the others built. But hey, being listed last never hurt Oliver Hardy, Lou Costello, Jerry Lewis, or Paul McCartney, right? And then in parentheses, or Jack Kirby, as in Simon Ann, Lee Ann, come to that. He goes on, but that's really the thrust of this that I wanted to talk about primarily, and I think that's. I'll just give you my take real fast, and I want to hear Big B's take. My take is, I was kind of with you on getting added to the credits. I could take it or leave it.
Right.
You should come first has basically changed my mind completely about whether or not he should be included, in addition to some other stuff I've kind of learned about since then. But how do you feel about this one, Big B?
Well, does every editor get credit then for every character that's created during their time? I mean, who was editor when Venom was created? Who was editor when, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. And wasn't Wolverine pitched in a FOOM by a fan before anything else? The fact that he was a small little feisty guy. I mean, okay, come on.
And that's exactly right. In fact, part of the thing that brought this up again in my mind was Chris from Comic Tropes was talking about this. He was in the show earlier. Hopefully he stuck around to see the news part of the show. I know he was looking forward to that. But he was talking about the fan submission, which I think is Andy Olson is the gentleman's name that submitted that, I want to say. And I just kind of agree that it's weird. I knew that had happened, that there was a fan submission about Wolverine, but I didn't realize that he was named in FOOM. Like, I went back and found a scan of FOOM 2, I think it is. And yeah, it says Wolverine, and I think it's implied pretty heavily by it saying Wolverine on the drawing, even though that's a different looking character than what we know as Wolverine. That he probably didn't actually name the character Wolverine. He may have said, we're going to call this character Wolverine. That might happen. And like Jay's saying here, was there ever any proof or someone to corroborate his claims? Now, I don't know about proof as in written documents or proof like that, but I do believe some people have corroborated that, yeah, he pushed for this character to be introduced. I do think it's interesting that there was actually a contest in FOOM, and I forgot some of the details of this exactly, but I did go look at it. It was a contest to create a villain, and Wolverine didn't even win. He wasn't the winner.
Right.
Now, again, it was a character who could regenerate. It had a healing factor, basically, but they had metal skin, and they looked substantially different. So it wasn't, 1-to-1. But still, it is interesting that, he's claiming all this stuff, and then he would have the gall to go so far as to say, no. Not only am I a creator of Wolverine, I'm the person who should be listed first as the creator of Wolverine. I can tell you that pretty much every other person that I have seen talk about this that was involved in comic books in any way, shape, or form does not agree with Roy Thomas.
Right. I mean, he's lucky that they gave him the credit that they did. I mean, in my opinion. I mean, like we're saying, does every editor that's around when a character is created, because they have some say in whether that story gets the green light or that character gets put in and whatnot. So they always have some say in what's going on with that character. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
it is a very, 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 very hard thing for me to agree with without, especially, and there's other factors to this too, which is to Roy Thomas's credit, he has been saying this for years, and including before like Lin Wein's death and before a few, he has been saying it, but he hasn't been pushing this hard while those other creators were alive to offer their opinions on it.
Right. And once they passed away, now he's got an open window to go, it was all me.
Yeah. And this is the tweet. I found it from Comic Tropes. And I mean, obviously this is in Foom too. This is a very old picture here, but this was him talking about this story when he first brought it up. And then he kind of shared, this is just to show it. This is the fastest way I could find the image is what I'm trying to say. This is the image from that. It's basically a 2-page splash, if you will, even though it's more of a magazine. And it has like, I'm going to guess like 20 or so submissions that are kind of like this. And this is a blown up part of that. And it just says The Wolverine by Andy Olson. And again, you had to read Foom 3 to figure out who won. And it was a different character that won. So it's a little different.
I like the regeneration picture. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And even there's the little picture there where he's got the tube going into him. A little Weapon X-esque.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where the more I looked into it, the less I agreed with any claim that Roy Thomas had to create this. And the other thing that's really cemented that in my mind, there's been a couple things I've seen where like editors have spoken out and been like, no, like just straight up no. That's not how it works. Editors don't get the credit. I think the only way you can, if you had an editor that was also writing a book, and that's when the character came out, that would be like the exception to that. But that's not because they're the editor; it's because they were also the writer. Right. I've kind of come full circle on this one to where I was a little skeptical and a little willing to allow Roy to share some of the spotlight. And again, because I thought he contributed more than it seems like he actually ever did. And then to have the audacity to say my name should come first is just insane to me, to be honest with you.
I mean, this could be another video for Chris, Comic Tropes, his whole thing about who really made Wolverine the Wolverine that we know today. Because I mean, when he first appeared, he was not the fleshed out character that we know nowadays. So I mean, you got Claremont and Byrne really having a hand in that. Cockrum. So I mean,
even like later on, you had some different
Frank Miller
creators. Frank Miller, Quesada, Kubert, and some of the visual
Barry
styles.
Windsor Smith.
Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, big time Barry Windsor Smith. Yeah, there's a lot of people that I think had that kind of DNA in there to making up Wolverine who he is today. And I would say almost none of them are Roy Thomas. Is kind of how I read that. But no, that would actually be a great video because he did that one for Deadpool recently.
That was a great video. If you haven't watched it, check it out, guys.
Definitely go check it out. And that would be a kind of a fun one to do as well, especially since he's pretty well versed on this topic. That's kind of it too. So that's where I gave some grace to Roy Thomas, because I understand what you're saying, buddy, but he really was out there for a while saying this. It wasn't gaining traction with people, probably because of the editor stigma. And then it kind of did for a little bit, at least with somebody at Marvel, because obviously they did add him to the list of creators. But just because he's been saying it for a while doesn't make it true either, right? So,
right.
And it just seems like too much has come out to cast shadows on this. And then the fact that he did start banging the war drums big time after the death of all the other creators, that's what there's no there's nobody who matters to corroborate it. And clearly every writer that I could find that had anything to say about this, every editor I could find having to say about this, every artist that created characters, all disagree with him being added to the list of creators. And I think that speaks massive volumes in itself there too.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about a little bit with Chris over at Comic Tropes' video about who really made Deadpool who he is, Daniel. So
really
that's a really salient point. Go watch that video. I'd recommend it.
And his Mike Zeck video before that was great too. That's Alex.
He's been on a roll. yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was Joe Kelly that first did that, right?
He started. He sort of. I think he broke the fourth wall in the second miniseries once. I think is what Chris was saying, and then they kind of started doing it more and more. But
okay,
maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to go back and rewatch that video. But yeah, I was thinking that it was the first ongoing series where he started really breaking the fourth wall and was more of a comedic element to his character.
Well,
So,
and that's the other thing too, is it's hard to say one fourth wall break really makes that part of a character's makeup, because there are characters that have broken the fourth wall just because the writer wanted them to, right? Like, I mean,
right.
it's existed before Deadpool, and it will exist in other characters after that too.
She-Hulk what? Hey, Dr. Plagueis.
Hey, what's up?
I've got to give a shout out to Dr. Plagueis, by the way. This guy is awesome. I'm going to Terrificon in a couple weeks, and some friends of mine, he did stickers for them, and I reached out and I said, hey, it might be too short a notice. He said, no problem. I can have. He had done it like 5 days. I had like a couple hundred stickers done, and I said, hey, do you do shirts? He did 2 shirts for me at the same time. So if you guys need some printing work done, hit him up. And also, great YouTuber. So
Nice. No, that's very awesome. Yeah, there's a post that Big B put up earlier with a picture of the shirts and the stickers. So definitely go check that out. Did some good work, it looks like.
So
So
my
good job.
story.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So those are only temporary. I'll put a permanent one up soon, though.
There you go.
Oh,
Hey, there you
cool,
go.
Kazi. Hopefully, I'll bump into you, buddy. And I'll have a cool shirt that says Big B on it, so you'll be able to know who I am.
You won't get lost in the crowd of glasses wearing
Bearded, big dudes.
So yeah, apologies for ever giving Roy Thomas the benefit of the doubt is kind of my stance on it, I guess, in the end.
I mean, he'll still get. We weren't there. We don't know for sure. I don't want to totally write him off, but saying something so over the top as my name should have been first. That's kind of distasteful to me, anyway.
Yeah, that to me, like even if he was able to produce some kind of document that legitimately showed he had more to do with the creation of Wolverine than we thought, with some of the other co-creators saying, "Oh, hey, great job coming up with some of these ideas, Roy," or something like that.
Right.
That would be one thing, but then again, to have the audacity to say my name should come first, to me, it's just like he's just creeping up there in the stratosphere. It's like you should have been happy to have been added to the list of creators at this point,
right?
Because that's a very nice list to be on,
for sure.
So,
hey, speaking of shirts with logos on it, you're wearing your merch today.
Yeah, I am. I'm wearing the. I never worn this on the show before. Oh no, my camera battery just died. So in a second, you're going to stop seeing me. I'm going to switch out the battery.
Okay.
Bad timing for that.
He pops up with his shirt, and then the camera dies.
Yep. So I think if I remove myself, I think there's a chance.
We can't hear you, so now it's just me. So there you are. You're back.
Well, I'm there, but I won't have a camera. So here's what I'll do for you. I don't know how much we have to say about this particular article, but I will share this, and maybe you can kind of talk about our next little news story.
Talk about some news. All right, I can try that.
Yeah. While I'm switching out my camera battery.
All right.
Let me just get that shared.
Hopefully, it's a piece of news that I was well informed of.
It was the one you reminded me about a second ago.
Oh well, I didn't really get a lot of info on it, but
okay,
I knew that it happened.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really know a ton of the details either. But maybe you can kind of vamp on that for a second, or at least talk to chat while I find that camera battery.
Well, we got this positive piece of news here. 14 people arrested in Comic-Con sex trafficking sting. Unfortunate that it happens during Comic-Con and kind of puts a bad light on us nerds. But I guess that, I mean, absolutely happy that those people got busted and that those women were rescued from that situation. But, you know, so any of you guys see any of that going on in the news? I didn't really get to read, and I can't scroll down and read the piece there, so I don't know a whole lot on it. But I do know that they were. Can you explain that? How did they get badges? I don't know that it happened in Comic-Con, but probably in and around Comic-Con. So, you know, you probably had something going on there where it was prostitution sting at the hotels there near Comic-Con. So, Chris, you're back.
Yeah, the good news is I was able to find a spare battery. So I don't know if it's fully charged, but I got a couple other ones too. They're probably in the same boat. Hey, this happened during the claim sale too. My for whatever reason, my camera doesn't fully charge while it's plugged in, even though I have it plugged into theoretically enough power to do that.
And then your phone didn't want to log into.
Yeah.
And my phone has an issue with StreamYard, so we were having all kinds of problems. So people are wanting to get some details. I'm sorry, I'm woefully uneducated on this. I just knew that it happened, and I was happy that those women were able to get out of that situation, but I didn't know exactly what happened.
Yeah. And this is when you kind of reminded me about in backstage, and so I hadn't had a chance to refresh myself on it. So kind of let's do that in real time here.
We'll read on as we're right here.
Yeah, and this is coming from Variety.com. An anti-human trafficking operation at San Diego Comic-Con resulted in 14 people being arrested, according to the California Attorney General. Over the 3 days, the Human Trafficking Task Force conducted a human trafficking sting aimed at recovering victims of sex trafficking and targeting sex buyers using the San Diego Comic-Con convention to seek out potential victims. Now, before we even go too much further in the story, well, actually, they even say it right here in this quote. Unfortunately, sex traffickers capitalize on large-scale events such as Comic-Con to exploit their victims for profit. Look, unfortunately, sex trafficking does happen, and unfortunately, any large-scale event is going to be a target for this. That said, of course, I don't want to see it happen anywhere, let alone at Comic-Con. But that is just kind of a reality to some extent. And I say that to the point of be vigilant if you're at an event like this, not only of yourself and your own safety, which is important, but this is my advice. This is what I do anytime that I'm in public in general, actually, but especially at a large event. I try to watch out for other people. I try to see if, do you see somebody who, I'll just say it because this is very common. If I see a woman being talked to by some people and she seems uncomfortable, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I might keep an eye on it for a second, make sure everything looks like it's on the up and up, that kind of thing. Because if you do see something like that, hey, maybe you don't want to confront somebody. That's understandable. Maybe you can tell some staff, hey, I think we need to check out something going on over here, that kind of thing. Because there is usually police and security presences at these kind of events, especially San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, like even when we were at SummerCon, there was some stuff going on. There was a woman having a mental health crisis. We both kind of were like keeping an eye on that, making sure somebody got her some help. There was somebody who had heat stroke. We were both like, do we need to do something? Do we need to get some? Okay, somebody's there. All right, because we were in the middle of doing panels.
Yeah,
but trying to make sure that people got, and as Jay said, protect your fellow humans. And hey, Sleepy Reader.
Yeah, we got Damien in the chat as well. That's awesome. Glad to see it. Hello. And Psychophil, yeah, just like I think you probably posted that. My guess is either as we were talking about that or before we talked about that. 100%, this is something that happens somewhere else. And no, I'm sorry to answer the question that we had earlier. I don't know how they got badges, Alex. I mean, like at the same time.
Well, did they even have to have badges? I mean, it might have just happened at the hotels around.
Exactly.
Comic-Con.
That could have been it. Unfortunately, I haven't seen updated information about this that contains the context to exactly how this happened and the circumstances. And there's probably, with that many cases, I think there was 14 different instances. So I'm sure some of them varied. I doubt maybe it was all the same individuals involved, but probably it was spread out over the event too.
Well, it sounds like they were able to pull those women out as they were making these arrests. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
100%. But to me, the huge takeaway from this, like I said earlier, is to keep vigilant about these kinds of things. I think that's the most important thing. Be on your toes, keep your eyes open, and look. Even if you just want to approach it from the angle of keep your eyes open because people there might want to steal your stuff. Right. Watching people around you is very important. I hate it. You should be looking out for other people in general, but if you're looking out in that way, you might notice other weird stuff going on, right? There's multiple reasons why you should do that in a large event like that. And some of them are very dark and sad reasons, including things like this. So I just, hope everybody out there tries to help each other stay safe. And hopefully we can prevent these kind of things from happening at any of our events, big events, Super Bowls, or Comic Cons. So,
right. But upside, like I said, glad that those women were able to get out of that situation.
100%. And with that said, it is basically about time to take our second break, our second ad break. So we're going to do that real fast. We're going to take our second break. So if you're not familiar, like I've mentioned a couple times, but we are streaming over on the EXP channel on YouTube and some of their other places too, like Twitch, for example, or Instagram, Facebook. Lots of places to go watch their stuff. But primarily, I recommend going and watching on their YouTube channel if you're a YouTube fan. So head on over to their YouTube page and get signed up if you want to check out some of the shows you're about to see ads for. And we'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll be talking about our next news story and saying hello to all you in chat. So see you in a couple seconds.
So the show is called The Geek Chat. And really, there's just a couple of geeks.
I'm Rich.
I'm Dez.
And we are your hosts for this weekly guide into comic bookery and all the geeky stuff that goes with it.
And that pretty much says it all. They talk about the latest movies and shows.
Okay, I'll be completely honest with you. Overall, D+ movie.
So the end. You know who that is?
That's She-Ra. Yeah.
Yes.
The new #1 comics of the week.
We rep Samuel Jackson and we rep Mace Windu.
I passed on this. I was like,
no regrets.
No regrets. I really wanted to like this book. I really did. I really did.
And just chat with each other. And with you.
Oh, Daniel says, I dosed off with the first one. I have zero interest in the Joker Harley ship, not Harley herself. Enjoy, not for me. Yeah, this movie's going to be rough for me to sit through, I'll be honest.
The Geek Chat, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just a couple of honest geeks.
Let's be honest. Come on.
And that is why people watch us, because we're honest.
Giving their honest opinions.
And the thing you always have to remember about the internet is everyone has an opinion, and they all suck.
Part of the experience.
What do you call the place on Spider-Man's wrists where the webs come out? His website. I hate myself for writing that joke, but you'd make me feel so much better if you just visited our website. We have links to our merch, new release lists, all the show info, and so much more. TheEXPLive.com.
Hey, welcome back. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and this is...
Who am I? Oh, Brian, aka Big B McFly, the comic guy.
See, I forgot temporarily too. That's why I asked you. No. So we're going to get into our next news article here very quickly, and it's kind of a biggie.
I'm not Colin Kaepernick.
Spoilers, yo. No, that's that. Yeah, exactly. It's that big Colin Kaepernick AI story. But the scroll's been up at the bottom of the screen for a while now. I'm going to take that down in a second so we can focus on the rest of the news stories. But please do enter hashtag Claus into the chat so you can get a chance to win this gorgeous hardcover Joseph Michael Linsner.
Beautiful dust jacket edition.
Beautiful dust jacket edition. Let's see if there's a cool page I can open up to and show you. But you get a chance to win this totally for free, just for watching. This was supplied by Big B McFly, the comic book guy. He's a pretty awesome dude. So definitely go.
Linsner all throughout. I mean, it's beautiful artwork.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of his artwork. And I also will throw in like raw comic books and trading cards and some other fun stuff into your box as well. So make sure you do that. We'll do that drawing at the near the end of the show. After that drawing, we're going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine spoilers. Don't worry, no spoilers until we give you a very clear warning right after we do the drawing. So plenty of time to check out the rest of the show if you haven't seen that movie yet, or if you care about spoilers. However, before we get to that very awesome comic book movie that's based on a real comic book told by real people and Roy Thomas, just kidding. First, we're going to talk about some unfortunately kind of fake comic books with quotes, somewhat, because we're going to talk about this new story, which, by the way, comes from this particular article comes from Bleeding Cool, and we're going to talk about. I never thought this was going to happen on any show that I do. We're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick on a comic book show, and it's related to comic books. So
yeah,
for those, go ahead.
Oh, I've got some input on that. I actually saw some stuff on IG promoting this just a little while ago. So
interesting. So for those of you who don't know, because I know there's some football fans amongst us, but many aren't. Colin Kaepernick is a former NFL quarterback. I'm going to very, 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 very lightly touch on something you need to know about Colin Kaepernick, because if you don't know who he is, he was a very successful quarterback in the NFL for a time. He was a star. Not a super long career. He had some injuries and stuff happened near the end of his career, but also a lot of controversy around him as a player.
I think that kind of led into his length of his career as well. I think that the controversy surrounding him made it so teams didn't really want to have to deal with his stuff.
That is a very interesting, there are I know diehard sports fans that debate that, whether or not that actually tied into it. So I'm going to very quickly summarize what he probably is honestly most well known for, whether that's right or wrong. If you remember, there was this thing about players taking a knee during the national anthem years ago. It was kind of a big deal, especially during one season of the NFL. And Colin Kaepernick was basically at the forefront of that. So you can kind of imagine some of the issues that go along with that. And then basically shortly after that, he stopped playing in the NFL. Some people will say that had a lot to do with it. Some people say that wasn't as big a factor. There was also some injury stuff. He tried out for some teams, including my team, the Denver Broncos, and he didn't get signed with any of them. And some people wonder why. And that's a whole different issue that obviously we aren't really prepared to cover on this particular show. But that's
not our
kind of,
follow wax.
Yeah, that's kind of, the first paragraph of his wiki page probably is going to mention that. So I figured we should too.
Right. Right.
No, we're going to talk about a much different controversy, which is generative AI use in comic book creation.
Right.
So this is Colin Kaepernick. This is a more recent picture of him. Well, it's actually about 5 years old or 6 years old, but still a little bit more recent than the one I have on the thumbnail, which is I wanted him in uniform. So
handsome fella.
He's a very good looking dude. And he's somebody, all that said, what I said earlier, I actually was somebody who wanted Colin Kaepernick to make a return to the NFL. I thought it'd be a cool full circle thing. I really wanted to see him back. There's definitely been rumors of him wanting to come back and try. Well, not rumors. He's definitely wanted to try to come back and hosted his own little camps and stuff to try to show off and have scouts come out and try to get back in the NFL. But why we're talking about him in the context of comic books is he is using this platform called Lumi that I had not heard of previously.
Mm-hmm.
and he's raised $4 million on this Lumi platform, which is basically designed to help comic creators use AI tools to create comic books, is my understanding of it. And of that $4 million, some very notable names have been involved in helping support his rise there. 776 led the seed around alongside Kapoor Capital and Impellet Ventures. Those are names I've heard, but I'm not as familiar with. Angel investors Mariam Nafisi, sorry if I pronounced that correctly, who's the founder of Minted, which I've heard of. David Z. Chamillionaire is the name that stuck out to me, the rapper. And tech execs from Meta, Anthropic, Contextual AI, Sleeper, which is, I think they're talking about the fantasy football app, Pave, and more, a lot of different places. But yeah, $4 million is nothing to sneeze at. One of the things I've definitely seen mentioned in this conversation is, could you imagine if you had $4 million to make a comic book, then you could go out and hire a real, team of artists, real writers, a real, studio or a publisher essentially. The kind of comic book you can make for $4 million. That's a great point. Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of this, is that Colin Kaepernick is behind this push to give creators the power to use AI to create comic books. I'm going to continue reading from this article a little bit, but since it's mostly just white text, black text on a white background, I'm going to take it off for now, so you guys can see us a little bit more. So I'm curious, what did you see on Instagram earlier exactly?
There was basically like one of those kind of infomercial, short little infomercial things where it's like comic books are a way that people are making, millions of dollars, and you too can become a part of this. Using Chat GPT, you can generate a script with just a short idea. Plug it into this app, and it'll and pick an art style, and it will totally illustrate the comic book for you. You can go in and edit the panels, edit the word balloons, and then publish it to Amazon and sit back and let the money roll in. And I was just like, okay, this is bad news.
Yeah, it's so look, here we are. We talked about Roy Thomas and the Wolverine creator credit again. Here we are talking about AI and comic books again. And when I say AI, I'm specifically, every time I talk about AI in this conversation, I'm referencing generative AI. I personally believe there are uses for non-generative AI that can be acceptable in certain circumstances as we move forward in comic books.
So to be clear, we're not talking about Allen Iverson.
Wait, what? Oh.
Well, I mean, we got Colin Kaepernick,
I'm a football fan, not a basketball fan, so that one took a second for me.
All of a sudden, we're going sports.
Well, so Kamikaze, that's actually, to me, the most interesting thing I learned about this is Kamikaze says, are these guys not reading the room? Obviously, they really haven't looked into the community at all. And what I found out interesting from this, and by the way, Chris is coming up a lot on the show. Chris from Comic Tropes pointed out something when he was talking about this. I don't know if he revealed yet who it was he talked to, and maybe he won't or whatever. That's totally fine. He was talking to somebody who had Colin Kaepernick and his people reached out to them, and they're a professional in the comic book industry. And they basically were like, don't do this. It's a bad idea, and here's why. And they did it anyway. So a lot of people, when this first came out, were saying, oh, well, maybe it's just because, he doesn't understand comic books. And, if you knew anything about comic books, maybe you would come into this and be like, this is a good idea. Okay. Right. I could maybe give you some benefit of the doubt. But with the current situation in comic books, like Kamikaze is saying, coming into this and knowing that comic creators have told you this is probably a really terrible idea and proceeding to do it anyway, it's just never going to gain any ground unless it's through his celebrity, which I'm going to be like 100% honest. I don't know that Colin Kaepernick is the kind of person that can really push a comic book that is not liked by comic book fans
Right.
with just a celebrity.
I don't
Maybe
think
I'm wrong.
I don't think that he was trying to push a specific comic book. He's just
No.
trying to push a tool that can
Right,
be
but
used by people to make comics.
right, but presumably, whether it's an ad or whether it's, just his maybe through his social media channels, presumably he would help try to, hopefully push some of this stuff, I would imagine, when it comes out, or at least post about it, right? And I don't think him
Right.
doing that would even be enough to move the needle substantially. When a bunch of comic book fans are like, wait a minute, this was you created this using generative AI. If anything, there's going to be a backlash to that that I can see happening amongst comic book fans. So
The thing that I thought was interesting, like there was like when it showed pick a style, it was definite like certain artists from certain time periods. Like here's Kirby, here's there was just it was very obvious who they were ripping off when it was pick a style. So I don't know. There's that.
hey, Roscoe.
Hey, speaking of
Yeah.
artists,
Yeah, and speaking of artists, I'm actually another guy who does some artwork kind of in the social media space too, as well as Roscoe does that. Psychotron says, I'm tired of being asked, wow, you drew that? It's a low-key insult. Here's my question. Can you do a comic book artwork rendering only? When they ask, did you draw this? I'll say, no, I inked it. To the first part of what you said there, Psychotron, I, as somebody who's been sharing some of their artwork recently, I do actually kind of identify with that comment. I know I don't necessarily take it as a low-key insult, and I understand that you do. But when you say, wow, you drew that, as I get that comment, and I'm kind of like, yeah, like I'm sharing it, like saying I drew it. It's just kind of, I don't know if that's like the I'm being polite and don't know whether to say something good or bad about your artwork thing, or whether that's the, oh, I can't believe you drew that because it's so good. I don't know. Maybe it's a little imposter syndrome. I think that maybe is what it's supposed to mean, but I can identify with that, Sicko, because I do feel that way when sometimes when people say that about my art. You're a very talented artist. Do people make that comment when they see your artwork? And if so, how do you feel about it?
yeah, well, I think it's more of a like people don't realize that they're rubbing shoulders or bumping elbows with somebody who does have talent and who can do something like maybe you have a friend over and they sit down at the piano and just start playing piano, and you're like, wow, I never knew you could play piano, or I didn't know you were a great singer, or a lot of those things. This is talents that you didn't know people had. So I think it's kind of like just people don't realize that you have that skill. So
Yeah.
I don't take it as an addiction or as an insult. I saw Roscoe's late night addiction as I'm reading as I'm talking. Yeah, I don't take it as an insult, but I take it as as kind of a compliment that people didn't realize that I had that skill to do art.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think and to be very specific to kind of close the loop on that, I think Sicko maybe is kind of mentioning that in the context of when people say that when AI conversations are out there, you do have to kind of wonder, is there an insinuation of maybe was that generated with AI, or are you taking somebody else's art or something like that? And that, that is something we do have to worry about in the art community.
I like Dr. Plegus's comment there.
Yeah, and I was just going to get to that one too. I want to make sure I hit this one. When it comes to AI, it's all fun and games until Skynet. I love that. But yeah, and then I do agree with Jay that he should have reached out to the comic community and asked, "Hey, y'all think this is a good idea?" And again, he kind of did, sort of. Reaching out to professionals, I think, is a good step in that direction. I wish he would have listened more to what they said, because, as I understand it, he didn't.
Right.
So, and then Roscoe, by the way, can't wait to see you open up that box. Thanks for letting us know about that. And thanks for sharing your artwork with us as we do the community artwork shares we do later in the show. I've really enjoyed seeing your artwork, man. It's been a good chance to check out some of your stuff. So Dr. Plagueis says, I'm in the graphics business and AI has completely taken over the design world. And that's a very interesting one. And Plagueis, I would love to know, and I'll just scroll down. I didn't see another comment from you. When it comes to that, I'd love to know, and maybe even DM me later or something like that, because I'd love to know when you say that, I'd love to know what level that is. Is that generative AI in terms of doing all the design work for somebody? Is it AI tools that are cleaning up original designs that somebody sends in? What level is it? All of the above? I'd be super curious to hear more about that.
Right, it's a hot button topic for us. So it might even be cool to have Dr. Plagueis on our show at some point to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something we can definitely look into. Yeah, and I totally understand that, Jay. Thanks for making that comment. And see, Bronze totally gets it success. So yeah, we're all on each other's pages. But then you got the digital artists that use Photoshop to do their creations, and that's a good point. Is Photoshop has some stuff that's built into it. A lot of artists have different tools that they've used to enhance their artwork. And look, I'm willing to have that conversation. I know a lot of people are very hardline. Absolutely no. There's no chance. We cannot use AI at all. And then there are people that are willing to talk about it. I mean, honestly, every time I talk about AI, I get more comments from people that support using AI art than don't.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I mean, when we interviewed some people, I was surprised by some responses that we got up there in SummerCon. Some of the artists that we talked to were using AI to assist in coloring or backgrounds or rendering, inking, kind of all kinds of stuff. So it was really interesting to, they said, back in the day, there were a lot of people who, if we would have time traveled back 20 years, there's always a new technology that's being threatening to another industry. Like what was the automobile to the horse and carriage, right? So I mean, the one person said you either learn how to adapt or you go the way of the dinosaur, right? So I mean, there's that. I mean, the horse is out of the barn now. It's like kind of, unfortunately, it's that way. And I'm starting to see things like where it's on Instagram where. So I'm not a huge famous artist or anything, but you see these things where it's like, if you don't want Instagram and the I forget the name of the thing that's feeding all the AI. Meta. Then what Meta is as an artist, if you don't want Meta to use your artwork to fuel, I mean, you got to go in and do all these special. You have to opt out rather than to opt in, which is just so wrong to me.
Yeah. 100%.
I think I had that story about opt out versus opt in with my bank, where I went in to deposit some money to go buy an airline ticket, and when I deposited the money, my bank account was in the negative, and I was like, wait, I always have a little bit in there. Oh, well, we had this thing, and we sent you a couple emails that you may have missed, but if you didn't specifically come in and opt out, you were automatically opted in, where you're going to get dinged $8 a month. And I was like, wait, you got to opt out instead of opting in? You can't just automatically opt people into things.
Yeah. Well, and this is like where the whole like reading the terms and conditions kind of stuff, like most of us don't,
right.
And I'm being honest, like I don't most of the time too, on a lot of things. There are certain things where I definitely pay attention. But yeah, we kind of live in a society where that's
well, yeah, we just click, there's such a big long laundry list and it says you accept these terms, and it's like, well, if I don't get to use my phone, right? Or I don't get to use whatever, and I need to use that. So yeah, I get that. So
yeah,
you do have some more input there from a couple more input pieces from Dr. Plagueis. And hey, CJ, hi to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, I got a lot more chat to get to. I was just kind of waiting to go down the line here.
You're waiting for me to shut up.
No. But I see it all. Trust me, folks. I see it all. We're gonna get to, I can't say every single comment, but we're gonna get to most of it. Giga says you did Tina Belcher as Scarlet Witch and Jimmy Jr. as Vision from Bob's Burgers, and that's really cool. I can't wait to see that.
Nice.
Yeah, so Damien Sleepy Reader says AI is theft. I don't think it has learned so much as massive recombination of sources. And so I just want to kind of close one loop I said earlier, which is where I get to where I think there's some AI things that are some stuff we're going to have to explore as a community and look at. I do not mean generative AI learning from other artists. I never will support that unless things change quite a bit. And, if there's a community of artists that opt into that, that's a different story, right? Because then they've given their permission for that.
Right.
But there
Or if
are
they're
artists.
starting to give, if they start to give like what's the word where you get your money for not commission
Royalties.
royalties. If they start giving royalties to the people whose art was used to generate that art, then maybe. I mean, and again, but if you opted in, right? Not if you just said no, I don't want you to do that.
Exactly. So I think there's some room for that. But I have to point out there's artists out there that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure on what level they're public about it, so I won't mention names. But there's artists out there that train models only on their own work, and they don't go and look at other images. And I have a much different feeling about that than I do about an image generated when you type in the style of ArtGerm, and it just spits out some image based on everything that ArtGerm's ever been paid to do. And that are his works, and that he should be the one that's getting credit for, and then you give no credit to it, especially if you pass it off as your own work. Then we've gone down a line where I am not going to support that at all.
Right, where you type in a prompt, do me this picture in the style of ArtGerm,
like Roscoe says there. I won't read the whole thing, but I definitely agree with you, Roscoe. And then so I'm going to kind of. This community is something we all have good. That's a really good takeaway. I'm glad you got that, Sicko. And then yes, we said hi to you earlier, CJ. I'll let you know a little secret. This is actually recorded. I just recorded this message where I said hello to you, and we recorded the message where Big.
We knew you were going to come on at some point.
We just knew, and I just highlighted your message from another stream. So, are you live? That's a good point. And that's the funniest part about it is CJ does not like AI, so he must have. I think it's just kind of like Beetlejuice. You say his name and he just shows up, right? Or
you just say AI, and boom, there he is.
AI-EIO. But yeah, to get to Dr. Plagueis' comment, which I did want to address. Thanks for pointing that out. He says mostly generative clients coming to me essentially print production ready, whereas a few years ago, me or a designer colleague would have been doing that work, and the design work is scary good. Now, here's my question to you. Dr. Plagueis, if you're willing to answer, and maybe you dip down below, I'll highlight some of your comments. How do you feel about printing that work when you're sure that it's been done by generative AI? That's my question to you.
Well, I mean, that's that statement that we just said, though, where it's evolve or die, right? I mean, he's got to make his living, and
I'm just curious. Just curious. Maybe he has a stance on it that I would find interesting.
Right.
I recently was doing work for my city, and the designs they sent me are so similar to a designer buddy of mine. So I messaged him and asked if it was his work, and it wasn't. So I asked my client, who they hired for the design work, and they told me it was all AI generated. Okay, so interesting.
So how did you feel about that, Dr. Plagueis?
Yeah.
We're curious.
I went to a bank, and they wouldn't let me take my money out unless I closed the account. What is the point? That sounds like a weird one.
Yeah.
That's weird. Well, generative AI is absolutely theft, but there's also non-generative AI. That's the important distinction that so many people seem unaware of.
Well, like Kyle was talking about, a lot of the stuff that we use, we don't realize is running on AI. So
yeah,
like he was talking about a lot of tools that he uses that are running off of that we don't realize. So
yeah. Wait. I've heard of this episode, but is this a typo? That's how you get the South Park episode of Human Sent iPad?
Sent iPad. It's Sent iPad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it. I've been hit or miss. I've seen the Ozempic thing they did. That's the only South Park thing I've seen for a while. Signing the license agreement without reading it. Okay, but that's an older episode. I know.
Right.
This is a very interesting conversation to have in the society in which we live. Any thoughts on the men's Olympic basketball match between Germany and Greece? I'm sorry to laugh at your question, Adam. You know what? It's funny. I was watching some highlights with my daughter, who's kind of curious about the Olympics. She's learning about some of the stuff, and we were watching some of the Olympic highlights. I didn't see anything about that game, so I don't know if you're just making a joke because it's off topic, or if you actually have something about that. Maybe there was something about AI. Let me know. I'm curious what you thought about that game.
I'm so out of the loop on sports. The only thing I saw was the pole vaulter who knocked the thing down with his junk, and there's some stone cold guy that was in the pistols match.
The Turkish
kept his hand in his pocket the whole time. Everybody's like, well, I want to know more about this guy.
Yeah. Hey, Psycho Phil, thanks for being here. I understand you're on the
Yeah,
on the
appreciate
West
you,
Coast.
buddy. And thanks for being at our claim sale too, man.
Yeah, and by all means, come on in and watch the rest on the rewind later if you feel like it. We'd appreciate it, and we love seeing you here. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
That's one of you've seen. Hey, there you go. That's one of the things I like about the Olympics too. Is it is fun to have national teams to root for.
Oh well, that's what's his name? The Bucks guy, right? He's from Greece.
Basketball again?
The Greek freak. I can't think of his name, but
I'm so bad. I know some.
I'm just thinking of
references.
the pros can play for their teams now. He's a big pro, so
yeah. I know. Like there's I think he's American. I'm not a golf person. I know a golfer. I think he's the American golfer. Just won. I know that was a big deal.
Giannis.
Okay.
Giannis. It's like his last name is like Antetokounmpo or something.
Unpronounceable to Big B. I'm sure CJ can pronounce it like.
I'm sure you guys could. I'm just not a basketball fan, but I am aware of who he is.
Jay says the Bold Vulture has some problems he doesn't know how to deal with.
I heard some rumors that was not even really his junk, that he stuffed that to try to up his OnlyFans. He's an OnlyFans guy. He doesn't make very much money from his sports, but he makes a lot of money from OnlyFans.
Sure, that wasn't his only vaults. I was going to say only polls, but I decided not to. Anyways, so we're talking about the Olympics now, folks. No, it's all good. I love it. I love the organic conversation.
There's his name down there. See, try to pronounce that.
Well, and I would butcher it, but hey, why not? Giannis Antito Kumbo. No, that's not right. I know that's not right. Wild.
All right, so you got another comment from Plagueis.
Yeah, I was gonna get to it.
Let's turn this back around.
Nah, let's keep it going straight.
Okay, let's keep going to OnlyFans and Olympics and crazy stuff.
the Ozempic Olympics from South Park are brought to you by Only Vaults. Now we could keep going, but wait, no Tito. No TTO.
When you said
I'm trying to sound it out live in person. I don't
Tinto.
I know to say Eero instead of gyro. That's about all I know, and I probably pronounced that wrong. So Dr. Plagueis, getting back to the printing business and the use of AI, he said, I don't like it, that's for sure, but I got to make a living. Totally makes sense. It does make me really appreciate the design work I still get to do. And thankfully, when it comes to signage, there's a design fabrication element that AI hasn't reached yet. And that's a good point. And see, I do think when you talk about AI, and you're not talking about necessarily, like, think about software that has, like, if you go to a subscription service, like Only Vaults. No, I'm just kidding. If you go to a subscription service where you like I do this as a content creator or something for music that is not royalty free, but like you can buy a license to like a website and they have a library of songs, images, videos. Every clip in the intro to the Best Coast Comics intro, it's all from a site that does open source video clips. That's why I have to kind of pick and choose what I use, because I wanted it all to be open source. The song is open source. And they're open source in a way that I don't have to credit them, so I don't have to put their thing in every single video. That's the way that site is set up. So when it comes to if you created some sort of library like that for AI generation, would I be opposed to that as long as every piece of art on there was submitted knowing that that's the case? I don't know that I would be. Like, I think there could be some interesting uses for that, like when it comes to commercial applications, YouTube thumbnail generation, a lot of different things. I'm not really for it. I'm just saying I'm willing to have that conversation. So I think that's kind of where it gets interesting to me when it comes to some of the professional stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like as almost like a where you put in like I'm wanting to have an artist do something for me, something like this, and you put in, and it, but you're still having someone work off of the work that you had generated, you know.
Yeah.
Because you could
Well-
say, you could point to another artist and say, hey, I'd like to have something done in the style of kind of like this. And I could see where, you know, well, like when we interviewed Frank Cho, he takes inspiration from a lot of classic artists and stuff, and looking at someone else's art and taking some inspiration from that, that's not wrong. You can, I mean, like he uses what's the fella from Saturday Evening Post? My brain just went blank. But he uses a lot of design elements that were first brought forth by him, and he credits. What's that?
Rockwell.
Norman Rockwell. Yeah, Norman Rockwell. And a lot of other artists that he credits them as the masters that inspire him. And I know as an artist myself, I would, in my art space, I would have pieces drawn by Arthur Adams up on the wall, or by Frank Cho, or you know, all kinds of people that art inspires me to create. So to have something that's in so in many ways, my brain when I do art is AIing an amalgam of all of the artists that have inspired me.
But to an extent, and like, I mean, I do the exact same things. Like, for example, I'm drawing a Lady Deadpool right now that is essentially, I'm using 100%, except for I've changed a couple pieces of how she's posed. It's like the Jim Lee Psylocke, I think it was on a trading card or something like that, pose. But I mean, when I put that art out into my social media, it'll clearly label that it's after Jim Lee, right? Like that's
absolutely,
because I'm clearly drawing from that source. But the difference to me though is yes, that is absolutely something that is accepted in the art world as long as it's credited, and you're attributing it to the original artist. But the difference is you actually are still doing the work, Bigby.
Right.
You're still putting in there. Now you're taking. I understand what you're saying, and like I said, I think that if you make the distinction that like if something is put into a library that is acceptable to use, it's a different story. Do I necessarily support it? Not necessarily, but I'm willing to have the conversation. When you talk about stealing somebody's artwork for generative AI images, I am not okay with it, and that's kind of where I definitely land on it. But I do have one important update that's very important to me. I got CJ to put in the official pronunciation. I think I'm ready to give this a shot to pronounce Giannis's last name. It is clearly No Tito, damn it. That's how you pronounce it.
Okay. I was always wondering. No Tito, damn it. I got it.
No Tito, damn it. There we go.
I thought he was just like upset with the Jackson family or something.
Everybody but Tito.
No Tito, damn it.
Ooh, that's a stellar idea.
There you go.
I know I'd want that Turkish dude on there to be my dead shot for sure.
I thought Cyclotron did say it earlier. He said he was interested in learning about the ability to train something to use his art as, you know, and if there was a way, that would be an interesting tool for artists to be able to use, where it just used their art on a closed system. That would be very cool.
And I know for a fact there are artists out there that are doing that right now. So it is something that I think we'll see more of. I could easily see, you know, software like Photoshop or something like that doing something like that. It, to me though, I certainly think it's something that if somebody wants to play around with it, they should. Why not?
I was playing with it the other weekend. I was sending it to you. I go, am I using the forbidden fruit? And you were like, it's okay to play with that stuff as long as you're just playing with it. I was putting my face on different characters and stuff. And it was just having fun. Yeah,
because I mean, there's, you know, at no point are you trying to pass it off and say, guys, check out what I did.
Check out what I drew. Check out what I typed in.
and again, and not being used for commercial purposes and those sorts of things. I mean, that I think there's a very different feel to that. I think it does to me border up on the icky quite a bit. And I'm somebody who's more willing to hear the conversation because I often like to listen to different opposing points of view. I often like my real point of view is I'd prefer AI not be involved in comic books. However, I need to hear the other side because I'm sure there are things I haven't thought of. And that's kind of been the case when I've learned about some of the artists that I was talking about earlier. Some of the different experiences, you know, some of the people we interviewed at SummerCon, like you were saying, that shared some of their experiences. But in general, I think it's kind of creepy. And getting back to the Colin Kaepernick of it,
Right.
and by the way,
Sorry.
Chris is in here now, and I gave you, I don't know if you maybe kind of tuned in and out, Chris, maybe you were listening. I gave you some props because you were pointing out that somebody had actually, from somebody who was a professional in the comic book industry, had basically been consulted or spoken to by Colin and his people and said, hey, don't do this, and they still did it. So I think that that's kind of the tone deaf aspect of this that really concerns me when I hear things like that. And that's what really, when it comes to this particular news topic, I would love to say that I'd love to see him succeed, but considering it's using, AI, and from what I can tell, generative AI imagery, I'm not down with it. And I hope that, maybe the kind of people talking about it, probably not us, but maybe the kind of conversation will change because of it. That'd be awesome to see some acknowledgement, like, oh, clearly the comic fans don't like this, so we're going to change direction. Something
Like I said,
that.
though, I saw that ad on Instagram.
Yeah,
I was
know.
like, wow, that's just. And I've also seen a lot of, like, it would have been interesting to ask our guest previously. I've seen.
Oh, I think we lost you for a second. You might cut out. You might need to fix your mic, Big B. Or is it just me? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and fix that real fast. And then, okay, so we did get confirmation. Carrie Randolph shared that story. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, yeah, it sounds like it was kind of a widespread. So it'll probably come back in a second. Again, we got the camera upgraded. We got the lighting upgraded. We're getting Big B sounding and looking clear. Hopefully here soon. Oh, still don't think I have you.
No, can't hear me.
Oh no, you're there. Okay, I hear you that time.
Okay,
cool, fantastic. We got you back. That's great. Yeah, we're.
So I was saying, there's a lot of writers who are saying they can't get their books to be loaded to Amazon and whatnot because there's so much generative AI writing books. So there was, I think you and I was maybe one of the early conversations we had where they were trying to come up with a no AI. Was this, not that there was a stamp that said this was made with AI, but a no AI stamp for things that for writers, so that they could, people could view those things with a clear conscience and feel like they were reading something that was actually written by a human.
And I think that would be a really good initiative as well. And like I've said in the past, if there is something that's if you're able to attribute the sources and they give their permission, it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But as it is right now, it's the Wild West, and in fact, it's even kind of worse than the Wild West in some ways. And that's where the problem really lies for me.
It's the high seas, the pirates.
Yeah.
Hey Chris, we gave you a shout out for your Deadpool video, and we said you need to do one for Wolverine now with the whole thing with who's responsible for making the Wolverine.
Yeah,
nowadays.
And we did not cover, and it came in kind of about the buzzer for us with some of our other topics. That may actually be one of the things that we talk about on next week's show. It's a smaller kind of news thing, but it's a huge amount of money. I think it was $75 million, if I'm not mistaken. But
holy shnikes.
Or maybe it was 7.5 million. It was a ton of money. I'm not prepared to talk about it tonight, but I'm sure Chris knows all the details because he also does a new show that's worth checking out earlier on Mondays. Unfortunately, I almost have to watch on the rewind because I'm doing dinner with my family and that kind of thing. But definitely go check out his new show he does.
Hey, Trav. Welcome.
That was internet connection. That was his microphone.
Bad microphone thing going on. It's cut out like 3 times tonight.
Yeah.
Hey,
Travis, what's up?
Yeah. I had something and it just. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So we are going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. Before we do that, I'm going to put up the thing one last time. This is your last chance to do #clause.
That was what it was that I was thinking. We said, people saying like, you drew that, and dude, did you see the piece that Chris put up with the car today?
Oh my gosh! Well, no, I watched part of the stream where he started. Maybe not started. I think he was early in working on it. It's a commission, I believe.
Right.
And I
Or a
was
role
hanging
playing
out.
book or something, right? It was for a role playing book, maybe.
Oh boy! I
think it
caught
was for some
stream
sort of
after it
a
started.
source book or something.
Maybe
that
I'm sure
needed
they'll
it
tell
for.
us since he's out there. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's a really
It was
good
great,
piece.
Chris. That was amazing.
So yeah, definitely go check out his page. But yeah, this is what you can win. So hashtag Claus, Joseph Michael Linsner, Black Cat Wolverine. We are talking about Wolverine and Deadpool later. I'll throw in some extra freebies into that box as well. This is your last chance to get on the drawing because we're going to do the drawing, and then we'll take a little ad break. We'll do the drawing, and then we're going to talk about all the spoiler stuff from Deadpool and Wolverine. And so if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to talk about spoilers, you'll have a chance to kind of, call it a night early. And if you want to hear all the juicy details, even if you've seen it or not, you'll have a chance to do that as well.
Get our opinions.
Yeah. So again, hashtag Claus in the chat. I'm going to take our last ad break of the night. And we're going to talk about some of the sponsors on the EXP, which you can also go watch this show over on. And then we're going to come back. We'll do that drawing and talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. So stay tuned.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel,
That'd be really great. Thanks.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
All right. Lots of great shows coming up over on the EXP tomorrow. So definitely come check them out.
Hashtag Tito, damn it.
Hashtag Tito Damn It. It's not going to win you a book, but it's a damn good one. So I do want to keep the show moving. Gave people plenty of time to enter this. We got 8 entrants into this particular contest. I hope you entered, and if not, you got like a couple seconds, and then the lag is going to kick in and
give him a 15-second countdown.
I'm giving him 5. You got 5 seconds.
5,
I already said that.
4,
5,
3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Boom. Let's see. I see comic journey got in there. That's all that matters in the end. And our grand winner is Daniel Cantu. Congratulations, Daniel. Daniel, I'm pretty sure I don't have your shipping information. Go ahead and hit me up on IG, my Discord server, Twitter, Facebook. Basically, if you find Bronze Age Nerd somewhere and he looks like he has a beard and glasses, hey, it's probably me. And DM me all your personal information. Give Tito a chance. Congratulations, Daniel.
Don't toast Tito.
Don't toast Tito. So now we're going to talk about that crazy F-bomb rule breaking. Hey, congratulations, Daniel. We're going to talk about that crazy F-bomb record breaking, multi-record breaking movie that Wolverine's going to have to make sequels to until he's 90. All the spoilers.
That Tatiana Maslany enraging.
Yeah, I still haven't had a chance to look at that. You told me about that. That is definitely a different aspect to this. But when it comes to the movie itself, let's stick to that for a minute.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, Bigby, you're up first, man. What did you think?
I saw it twice in 3 days. I saw it the day it came out, and I was blown away. I went and watched it by myself in my dirty concrete stained clothes, fresh out of my mixer truck. And what a zoo initially, just going in with all of the merchandise and everything that they had to sell for the movie. It was amazing. I loved it.
I mean, while they still had it.
They had it they said they sold out before midnight with all the stuff that they had. But it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it even more. I don't know if I'd say more the second time, but I was able to see more the second time. Just trying to focus on a lot more of the background details rather than take it all in. But I don't want to get too specific until we start talking about, walking through the movie and that kind of thing. So I'll let you go. What was your overall impression?
So I'll give my overall impression. I'm dying because we kind of already did that. I'm dying to get into the actual walkthrough.
Okay.
But I really liked it. But that's the gist of my impression of it. I actually had some issues with the movie. However, I think if you're a fan of Deadpool, if you're a fan of Wolverine, and if you liked either of the first two Deadpool movies, or if you've liked half or more of the Marvel movies, you should probably go check it out. That's kind of my barometer for it. And if you're watching at this point, you've probably already seen it, or you don't care.
I will say I'm going to just jump ahead to. I have some issues with continuity as far as we're in the universe where this conglomeration of corporations are poisoning all of the mutants and making it so they don't exist anymore. But that's not happening. That's the Logan universe, right? There's no more mutants because they've been poisoning them through the products that they eat and drink every day.
Well, okay. So, by the way, and I'm just one last CYA here. Full on spoilers from here to the end of the show. We've been pretty light up. I think we're fine up until now. From here on out, folks, it's all over. So tune out now.
Yeah,
goodbye. Thanks for watching the show. If you didn't watch the movie and definitely don't want to be spoiled. That said,
so any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my take on it now. I'm not a mega nerd when it comes to this kind of thing. I don't believe that we're really spending much time in that particular universe, though.
It is his universe because they lost their anchor being, which was Logan. He died shortly in the future from where Deadpool's at right now.
So I got the impression. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I got the impression that it was more like the Fox universes are, because Deadpool didn't know who Human Torch was. So
right. Okay.
I mean, is he really from the same actual time? I almost thought.
Deadpool was able, because it even says Deadpool was able to jump with the cables device between. So he was able to go to the 616. That's where he was when he interviewed
Happy Hogan
to be an Avenger. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of jumping through, and I got the impression he jumped through to the Logan universe to try to recover Logan for his universe.
He because his universe was dying because Logan died. So,
right, because he just went back because he figured he'd be healed by now.
He's like, that's not how regeneration works. He wasn't taking into account the fact that Logan was being poisoned by these companies that was destroying his regeneration abilities. That's why he died at the end of Logan. Is he lost his ability to regenerate because it was slowed down immensely because they poisoned him and every other mutant on the planet.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good point. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. That's definitely a valid.
Just a loophole I thought about. I was like, wait a minute. So,
but I mean,
somebody else brought up that Logan doesn't die till the future. So right now there's two Wolverines running around in that universe, and what I was
just going to say though is Logan takes place in the future of that universe though.
No, that's 10 years in the future.
Yeah, so there would still be mutants around until then anyway, though, right?
Right, but you would still be feeling the effects of that. I mean, they didn't die off completely in 9 years, and we still have. There's a whole bunch. We had young Professor Xavier when Deadpool was at the X Mansion. We had what's the actor's name?
I think I'm gonna have to quote Harrison Ford here when he was
thinking too much about this, Brian.
It ain't that kind of movie, kid.
Right. Okay.
I think that's part of
that's
this.
my problems with the continuity of it.
But I'm on your side though, of like, you would hope that the continuity would be taken care of. And I'm usually a stickler for that kind of thing, and I didn't really like pick up too much on that, mostly because to me the Fox X-Men universe, because I actually just kind of rewatched most of those movies, it's kind of convoluted anyway.
Oh yeah,
So,
you've got like characters that die and then they reappear again later
Yeah.
on in the Fox universe and whatnot. So yeah, it and different actors playing different. How many different Juggernauts? 3 different Juggernauts. So
yeah, exactly. Oh boy, that's a problem. So for me, I'll just, I want to say what my problems were, because otherwise I loved the movie.
Right.
But my problems with it are actually more of like, I feel like after I watched it, I was like, oh wow, because I have this thing where I go to movies recently and I'm like, man, I hope it doesn't suck. And it didn't suck. It wasn't like
oh no,
I walked out of the movie feeling bad or anything. But as time went on from me walking to the movie theater, I did feel like this movie could have done more. It could have went harder with the action or the making fun of Marvel. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking, but some of it I wanted, like the part where he says, can we just end this? And he's talking about the multiverse, and he goes on and he talks about everything since Endgame. That was to me like the height of the movie for fourth wall breaking and being aware. I wanted more of that. I wanted more being, if you go back and watch Deadpool 1, which I watched last week before this movie, Deadpool 1 slaps. It is a genuinely witty, great dialogue, excellent characterization of Deadpool. Like, it really feels like it was made with love by people that love Deadpool. Deadpool 2 felt a little less of that to me, and it was still a great movie. It still was very enjoyable. It felt a little bit less like that. Deadpool 3 feels more like Ryan Reynolds made the Deadpool movie he wanted to make. And that's not necessarily what I wanted from a Deadpool movie where we got to fight Wolverine and do all these different things. Now, I really like the movie. I'm just saying what kept the movie from being like perfect or all-time great to me was that kind of missing some of its teeth. It wasn't going for it viciously enough. And some of it was kind of like the plot was a little like, we're really over-explaining the plot. A friend brought up something that I felt like I identified with very well. We literally have like a meter filling up and then unfilling, and it's a little like, come on, we the audience is a little smarter than that. You can give us a little more credit than that. I had some problems with that kind of stuff in it too. Oh, did you have a microphone issue? Oh yeah, you're muted right now. Okay.
Phone issue.
Yeah, so Chris says it was a crowd pleaser, but not much more fun than that. Even though it was full of action, it dragged. So that the multiverse thing is great. Other than that, but that's part of it too. Is you go to all this trouble to do the fan service of bringing in like Juggernaut and Lady Deathstrike and these other characters, and they're not even played by the original actors. Why even bother bringing them back? I know there's reasons why that happened. A lot of it has to do with money, some other things like that. I've heard, like, for example, oh my gosh, I totally just blanked on his name. The guy that played Juggernaut in the I cannot believe I just forgot his name.
The British soccer guy.
Yeah. Why do I want to call him Vernie? That's not right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Vinny Jones. Thank you so much, Jay. Hey, what's up, Nostalgic Pod Blast? Yeah, well, we talked about that earlier. You missed that part of the show. We were talking about Andy Olsen and all that earlier. Yeah, there you go. I had a similar experience. I was in the hospital, by the way. Hope you're doing okay recovering from that. But yeah, I did watch parts of it later. It's fun. It's just not the level that I think it could have went to. And my theory was the scuttlebutt is that Ryan Reynolds, and I wish I could remember his name, he's a good director, the director of Deadpool 1 and Ryan Reynolds butted heads.
Okay.
And I think what happened? So Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds made that movie for Netflix. It's about time travel. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I did not enjoy it. And then they made Free Guy too, right? Free Guy was decent, but I think this is a director that Ryan Reynolds gets to do whatever he wants. And I think Deadpool 1, part of the magic might have been that the director was able to rein Ryan Reynolds in a little bit and kind of say, hey, let's stick to the Adam Project and Tim Miller. Thank you so much, both of you, for that. Horrible with names. I've always been terrible with names. So I think that there's a chance that he might have been part of the magic. And I think people were like, oh, well, Ryan Reynolds, once you get rid of Tim Miller, you're going to let Ryan Reynolds cook. I don't know a lot of people that prefer Deadpool 2 to Deadpool 1. Maybe those people are out there. Probably all of them are in chat right now because that's just how it works. But I felt like it was missing some of its character, but it had maybe a little more heart. This movie had some heart, which I really am glad to see. I'm glad there was some heart to it. But at the same time, it just didn't feel as cohesive and it didn't feel as clear cut to me. The villains, Cassandra Nova was good, even though she was kind of, maybe more of a plot device than a villain in the end. The actor from Succession, who's the main villain, didn't feel like he had much teeth to him. He felt like a puppet, which is pretty much probably what he was in the end. I don't know. That's just kind of, I felt like there could have been a lot better stuff going on. I trust me, we'll talk about some of the good stuff though too. But yeah, any other quibbles, qualms, or things you want to say about the movie that were maybe on the negative side?
No, my whole thing was, the only thing I had was the continuity stuff. It's like I said, somebody else brought up the fact that now there's two Logans in that universe right now, and two X-23s. There's a 6-year-old girl X-23, and there's an adult X-23. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, people bringing up some good comments in chat too. Heard Ryan couldn't do as much ad lib in this movie due to the strike. Interesting. Deadpool is still the best, and that's coming from a Wolverine mark. That's funny. I count him as Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice variant. That's a good one. That's a good one. Then again, Deadpool's best stories use a lot of other Marvel stuff. Yeah, you're not wrong there. It should have, but I also kind of then, which I know something is that Bigby was telling me about the other night, which I hadn't heard about yet. Almost like, hey, maybe use some more Marvel stuff, like kind of go for it more. And I think the reason why they didn't is because it does appear like this was a swan song for the Fox verse stuff, or at least an homage to that stuff, for better or for worse. But then again, you're not going to use the original actors. You bring. I think it was really fun to see Tyler Mane, who I've had on the show before, back as Sabretooth. Again, we're doing the spoilers, so I can see this now. He's in the movie for a very short amount of time.
That was a great scene, though. That was a great scene.
It was a great scene. But Deadpool even says it. We've been waiting for this. Get your special sock out, and then it's just over. That was for the fight between them, and then that fight right after. I don't know, but then there's amazing stuff, like
just the intro, the beginning intro, like the whole.
Oh yeah.
The whole deal where he's fighting the TVA agents and using the bones as weapons. That was amazing. The dance to Bye 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 was amazing. I thought that was I think I sent you the dancer that got asked by his agent. He's like, can you do the NSYNC dance? And he's like, why? And then he's doing it. And he's like, I can't tell you what this is for, but you're going to be amazed. And he was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean,
and that's kind of it. So I guess to my point is, I understand that there was probably like a cash thing, or they didn't want to come back, but then then don't use them. There's other characters they could have focused on.
Right.
There is. Ooh, that's a good question. If this movie didn't have some surprise cameos, would it still work okay? And I don't think it would have worked okay. I think it relied on those very heavily.
Yeah. And they did a pretty good job of keeping him secret up until the end. Yeah. And ultimately, I do want to talk about some of that stuff too, like on the positive side. Like I was just going to say,
Chris Evans. I was literally like, because I was pretty good about avoiding spoilers for this for a lot of things. There were a couple things that were spoiled for me. I didn't realize he was playing Human Torch for a second.
Neither did I. Well, they gave
yeah.
him the red. They gave him the red gloves.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, they're the red rags around his arms. It look like gloves. So you're thinking Cap, right? I mean, it's just like, and that was such a great scene, though.
Oh, that was phenomenal. Although it's hilarious, it's like, really, Human Torch is going to use his powers on Pyro? Like, out of everybody there, Pyro's the one he singles in on.
Well, maybe he didn't know Pyro was Pyro. I mean, that's what I was thinking.
But he knew Cassandra Nova. He knew all the other baddies were, so it's a little weird, but it's a convenient thing.
Yeah.
I know that's a nitpick, but
so chronologically, he jumps through, right? So we get to see the Danny DeVito Wolverine, which I thought was great.
It would have been even better if it was Danny DeVito.
Right.
Weapon X.
We saw Weapon X. That was great. The crucified Wolverine from that cover, which somebody tried to spoil that last week on our. They go, I can't believe that book is going for $60 raw. That was really cool. The Age of Apocalypse Wolverine.
Yep.
The Age of Apocalypse Wolverine with his hand cut off. That was great too. And then Patch, and then the Cavalry.
Oh, and John Byrne Wolverine with the very minute Hulk cameo as well. Exactly. Brandon Tan Wolverine. And by the way, talk about gripes. Here's another gripe, and I know this. I'm venturing into angry nerd territory. I get it. Frickin' let him put on the mask in that scene. Right. Let him put on the mask in that scene, and we got the. You probably can't see it, but I have Hulk 340 right up there. We got the claw reflection thing. That's badass. I'm very appreciative of that. Give us 20 seconds of that fight with the mask on.
So here's what I've read. And I don't know if you've read this, but they're going to do a extended cut re-release, which is going to have that. It's going to have like a 5-minute or more section with the Cavalry and other stuff, because Henry Cavill, I guess, was very upset that they cut his part down. So
I hadn't heard that. Interesting.
So they're planning on making another however many $1 billion at Thanksgiving, Christmas time with an extended cut.
Yeah, so much like Comic Strips is saying, that undercuts story structure. You need a third act boost. You need that end of the year highest grossing movie of all time re-release boost.
Right. So we're gonna get that, and then you're gonna get all your fan service in that. So maybe there's something to be said for that. But they tried to do a lean, mean cut for this time, and then they're gonna do
here's my problem. In the age of 3.5-hour Marvel movies, and that's not true. That's not all of them. I understand that, but there's been some that have had a really healthy runtime. And you have Deadpool making a joke about "Don't worry, we're in the home stretch" when it's only a 2-hour movie. Which I know, only a 2-hour movie. I know, movies used to be 90 minutes, folks. It still seems like a little like okay.
Well, that could have been aimed at the extended cut.
But then don't leave it in the theatrical. That's
true. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to see more of that. See, here's the funny thing. I will get everybody on this chat to hate me, and I'm not doing this on purpose, but I'm being honest. That was one of the things that was spoiled for me, is that Henry Cavill was going to be in the movie as Wolverine. I knew long ago the rumors about it, and there were a lot.
We had talked about a lot of the rumors beforehand, like Channing Tatum and Cavill and a lot of that stuff. But I didn't know that it had been spoiled for you. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no! Some asshat on YouTube made a video that showed the picture of it, and then that got shared like in my Google News feed, and so I saw that ahead of time, and so whatever, I saw that, but the shot was him from the back when how you first see him in the movie. But the title was Henry Cavill as Wolverine. So I was like, oh, okay, so I know that. Then in the movie, I'm like, oh, well, I know what's coming. I know who this is going to be because they're not showing the face. And I saw that arm. And then they turn around. And I will tell you, I think Henry Cavill looked like trash as Logan. Like body physique wise, he's a god. He can do no wrong. But in the face and like the facial hair and stuff, I thought it didn't look right. Like I was like, oh, that's actually like kind of rough for Wolverine to me, to be honest. And that's just my opinion, but I think he's a great actor. Maybe if he had time to fully, get into the grooming of it, it would look better or something. But I think he's not my particular choice for Wolverine, even though I think he can play the attitude of Wolverine fantastically, probably.
Oh, I loved his "you were just leaving."
Yeah. and I love that. I love that he was in there. I love the scene. I just was like, there's almost like an uncanny valley thing that happened to me when he turned around.
Well, I think we're so spoiled, ingrained that Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a while.
And so we have to talk about this. People are in chat are talking about Channing Tatum. And then
I've heard a split. I've heard it's pretty split on whether you like Channing or you didn't as Gambit.
I love that he's in there as Duke. So my best friend who's not a comic book guy at all was like, I don't know, Gambit felt really weird to me, is what he said. And I was like, he was supposed to. Like, I had to explain to him that was like that was
a joke too. Part of the joke was that maybe you just really wanted to be.
Yeah. And by the way, 2 comments of last things I'll say about the Cavalry for now. I agree with you, Dan. It could very much, I could warm up to it like in a really sincere way. I absolutely could. And then also, it was a fantastic middle finger to DC. That was, we'll treat you right, buddy. Like all that stuff was great.
Right.
But yeah, Gambit, it was fun to see. I loved the joke about it. And I will say, like, I had that thing where, like, in the middle of the movie, I had a prediction. I was like, oh shit, they're gonna get to this final showdown with Cassandra Nova, and he is gonna get like ganked immediately. Like, I thought he was gonna like do that thing where he even did it. He strode up to the front and he was looking all badass, and I was like, oh no, they're gonna pull a Shatterstar and just kill him immediately. And thankfully they didn't, and they let him be a badass, and that was really cool. I'm so glad we got to see that.
I will say, it was so when Deadpool went back at the end of 2, we didn't really see him save Shatterstar. So it was interesting to see Shatterstar still alive at the beginning of this movie. But yeah, no, so that was another question I had at the end of this movie: is Blade and Elektra and Gambit, are Blade, Elektra, and Gambit alive in Deadpool's universe now?
Well, they die at the end, though, right? So I mean,
so did X-23 and everybody else. I mean, but they're there. So did they?
Oh yeah, you're
TVA
right.
went back and saved them.
Yeah. See, I've only seen it once, so there is some of that stuff that I'm not as.
Yeah, they're at the party at the end with Wolverine and Deadpool.
It's a good question. I'll ask you.
They don't show Blade, they don't show X-23, and they don't show Elektra. But I'm wondering, did they get brought over as well?
I wonder if that's true. And I know there's actually been some I think they're just rumors at this point that Blade is going to be back with Wesley Snipes in some project. But here actually is the one thing I wonder about along those lines, because you mentioned Shatterstar. Not seeing Domino, because again,
that bothered me too, because Domino was big.
She was a huge part of Deadpool.
One of my favorite characters in that movie.
And again, maybe the actress was unavailable. Maybe she was shooting something else. I understand those are possibilities. I'm a little less
Sassy Beats.
Yeah, and I think she's amazing. Love her in Atlanta and everything, and other stuff she's done. But I'm a little less bummed about not seeing Cable in this one, although that would make sense too. To just even if it was just like a one-shot thing, it would have been fun. But I do think that we'll see. There's a lot of people wondering about X-23 being the new Wolverine going forward. I'd be cool if she was, but hopefully I would like to see more real original Logan Wolverine, and then I would like to see Laura maybe do her own stuff in the same universe. Like I'm totally cool, just like kind of in the most recent X-Men stuff, you've had Logan and Laura kind of side by side, and even Daken in there too. I am perfectly fine seeing both of them because I really thought she did Daphne Keane did a great job as X-23, young and matured, and I want to see more of her as well as of new Wolverine personally, whether it's Cavill or somebody else. I don't really want to see Hugh Jackman until he's 90 in X-Men movies. Secret Wars notwithstanding, doing something like that, yes, that would be fine. As an old man Logan type character hanging around at the same time, that would be fine. I don't want to see him be the main Wolverine forever in the new stuff. But
that's an interesting thing from Podblast of it. I want to see more of Patch Wolverine because they've really started to talk more about where is the country that Wolverine was patched in? Madripoor. Madripoor was big in the whole storyline with Secret Invasion and everything.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier too.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier. Sharon Carter's over there running everything as a background bad guy. So we could see maybe he bows out and he goes over to Madripoor and becomes Patch. That would be interesting, So
yeah. Yep. And by the way, a couple of you were talking about how the Fox X-Men timeline is all over the place, and I think that is the ultimate answer here.
I saw a post from somebody. They're like, now don't tell me that Deadpool's. They were talking like they were talking to Kevin Feige, and they're like, don't you dare tell me that Deadpool's universe is the same universe that we saw Maria Rambeau get sent to, and then the Feige person goes, yeah, it is, and he goes, why? He goes, because I said so. He's like, you can't do that. My parents are the only ones who are allowed to say that. He's like, that universe has the Professor Xavier is dead over there, and he's like, I'll go tell the professor and all this other stuff. So it was very interesting.
That's funny. That makes a lot of sense. I actually had kind of forgotten about that post-credit scene with Kelsey Grammer and everything in it now. Oh man, there's some real cliffhanger endings that have happened in the MCU that we haven't seen much happen for it over the last phase or so.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to see more. Like they were like, oh, and the big post credit scene. I was like, all right, we're gonna get to see something that's really gonna lead us into X-Men, and it was like
I was hoping for that too.
Yeah. So I mean that scene was pretty funny.
Yeah,
but
it was. Yeah, I'd hope for more of that too. I do, at the risk of being overly negative, I do want to ask, what was your favorite moment or memory of the movie? Like, what was the thing that really has stuck with you the most so far?
Oh my God, there was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to talk negative about the movie in any way. I would go see it a third time if one of my friends said, "Hey, I haven't seen it yet." I would go see it with them, and I would enjoy the shit out of it. It is a great, fun movie. But just the part where he put his mask on was pretty cool. That was pretty sweet. I love the fight in the car.
The fight in the car. Oh my God, that's a good one. This Honda Odyssey Fox or whatever, like that was
Honda Odyssey Fox art, but you don't needle dick. Come on.
It's great. If you follow his social media, there's somebody in our chat that works in the automotive sales industry. Has there been a run on Honda Odysseys recently? I want to know. Let me know. So yeah, that was man.
The bonding between them at the end of the movie, really, I thought that was amazing. Just
yeah, absolutely. It's hard for me to kind of narrow it down, but I did really like the Deadpool core fight, where you see them fighting together, and it's funny because it's one of my favorite moments, but I have some issues with it too. Part of it is I think actually, so that's kind of funny. What's commentary says, I kind of agree. When I finally saw the mask on, and I'd seen some things before the movie came out, some toys that had a really realistic rendering of it and stuff. I actually do think there was something off about the mask for me. And look, superhero costumes are hard, but we've waited this long. We got them in there, and it was mostly good. It was mostly good, but there was just something about it that just kind of.
I think some people said the eyes didn't look quite right, but
for me, it's the ears looked a little off, and the eyes looked a little off, maybe. But I don't like. Look, I'm still extremely happy we got that. For me, I would have rather gotten that over with earlier in the movie, like either during the brown and tan burn suit shot, or maybe during the first fight, the get your special sock out fight. And then maybe like, hey, now we don't need to see it for most of the rest of the movie or something like that. I would have been okay with that too. But getting to see the variants, getting to hear Deadpool's like anti-multiverse rant, and then leading into the fight scene and the bus and everything like that was pretty cool. The realization like afterwards, like, oh yeah, they all regenerate. Which I was thinking during the fight, I'm like, what is even the point of this? Like, is Deadpool. Right. And by the way, how quick Deadpool and Wolverine's healing factor is in the way that they did some of the fights. I've always said that I'm a fan of when it takes a little bit longer for them to regenerate. And this one, it was like almost instantaneous for everything.
Right.
It played for some of the scenes well, and for other scenes, I feel like it took away a lot from them, and like it was just almost like, well, the hits don't matter really, almost.
Right.
Even I did like
love
the moment.
I did love the bullets falling on the ground, and then Wolverine just spitting the bullet out of his mouth when they were fighting. That was pretty cool. The bullet's still fucking steaming as it comes out of his mouth.
I did just think of, speaking of that, the part when they're in the diner in the Alioth Wasteland, and he's drinking the rubbing alcohol. It's pretty good.
Right. That was pretty good.
There's just a little like moment.
The mask, there was some weird parts with it, but there's some parts where it looked really good. Like when they clasped hands and like his shirt comes blowing off and everything, and part of it's gone and it's just the upper part on him. I was like, wow, that looks pretty good there.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
nice pool. Yeah, that when nice pool couldn't regenerate.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like there's so much stuff I did love, and there, now to me, I guess it comes down to, like, since we don't know if we're going to get more of this duo together. Almost certainly we will in some bits of Secret Wars.
They're best friends. You're going to see something happen,
but
with another one,
but I don't know if it's going to be like, because of this, we're going to like, oh shit, we need to do another full-on Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I know I've heard a rumor that there's going to be a Deadpool Wolverine Spider-Man movie.
I heard that rumor as well. Yeah, that they want to get in with what's his name? New Spider-Man.
Tom Holland.
They want to.
And then I've seen the exact same. When I hear that conversation, I see the follow-up being like, I'd rather it be Andrew Garfield, which is a kind of an interesting thing to see.
Right.
I would almost be like surprised people wouldn't want Tobey Maguire at this point, almost after knowing.
Maybe we'll see that. I'm sure we'll see that in the Secret Wars.
Yeah.
All the multiverse of Spider-Man, and as well as, like we said, Miles. So we're going to see that happening.
Team Red. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, look, I'm just happy. I think that the beauty of this is that most fans of Wolverine and or Deadpool, or even just MCU fans that aren't necessarily Deadpool or Wolverine fans, there's something in here that probably everybody enjoyed. Whether it's the brown and tan suit, whether it's the fourth wall breaks, whether it's, Chris was bringing up how well they handled the TVA stuff and tying in with Loki and Alioth and all that stuff. They did a good job on at least some level.
I want to see more of Peter and the director of the TVA.
The romance series that's going to blossom from that.
She's like, you look damn good in that suit.
Yeah, and I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but the actor, what the heck is going on? I mean, he uses the F word, I think, but like, what is going on here? Like, it was just
yeah. They're just like, just take him away.
And this is I think this is kind of it. And I think this is why I love that multiverse quote from Deadpool so much in the movie. You know what? We comic fans like the multiverse variants, but I think mainstream audiences don't care that much. I think Spider-Man was enough for most people. And I would go so far as to think many comic book fans are already tired of the variant stuff too. Not, of course, that's not universal. Plenty of people still want more of it. I think that it's best when used sparingly. But here's the problem with MCU multiverse stuff, in my opinion, is it was like no real multiverse stuff, no real multiverse stuff, and then it was all multiverse stuff.
Right.
And that's
right.
all it was, for the last couple phases. Not all, I'm obviously being hyperbolic, but a lot of it. And I don't think we need that much. I mean, spread it out, which is something Deadpool would definitely say in the movie. Spread it out throughout a little bit more. Heard a rumor that Peter was a variant of Peter Parker that didn't get inspired. So I think pretty much, to me, I don't have any evidence of this. To me, on the surface level, that is clearly a Peter Parker stand-in, but that is not supposed to actually be Peter Parker. Like, I think it's like you are clearly referencing Peter Parker, and this is kind of like in Across the Spider-Verse, they say everybody has an Uncle Ben, and every Spider-Man has an Uncle Ben character or father figure type character, whether it's Prowler for Miles or whoever, right? That dies. I think that Peter that's 100% what that's supposed to be. But I think whether or not they ever actually wanted it to be Spider-Man, they couldn't really make it Spider-Man, so they didn't. I think it's more of a like a pretty on the surface kind of joke almost.
Right.
That's just me.
Hey, Rodriguez.
Hey, what's up? So yeah, and by the way, if you're in chat, definitely get out your comments if you have any questions, comments about the movie or things you just want to acknowledge how cool they were.
Yeah, I hope we didn't gloss over things too quickly, but yeah, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like, I don't know, I don't want to come off as too negative because I really was happy walking out of it.
I was super happy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would happily go see it again. So.
Yep, and then they mentioned Bird in that scene as a very good brand, and just the fact that even if it was just for a second, just getting Hulk was nice. And again, maybe we'll get more in some extended director's cut kind of thing. I do think for me a big one was not getting Domino, and this was a little strange. Even if it was a variant of Domino or whatever, if they had to do that. We have heard some people say that they thought Cassandra Nova wasn't a great villain. I disagree with that. I think she was actually a really good villain for this movie.
Right. That was the comment that Tatiana Maslany was saying, that she didn't feel like she was very well fleshed out.
Yeah, and to dive into that a little bit, so you're the one that told me about that. So why don't you tell us what you heard about that? Because I haven't read the story yet or anything.
So there were two. I don't want to come across anti-feminism or anything, but there were two things that said that I read. One was that, or there was actually videos quoting a lot of stuff. But Tatiana Maslany was very upset that there was supposed to be a She-Hulk portion of the movie where the She-Hulk also breaks the fourth wall, and they were pushed out. It was part of the stuff where Ryan Reynolds and the director said, "You're not going to tell us what to do, Marvel. This is our movie." And so they were saying there wasn't enough diversity and inclusion and whatnot, and a lot of jokes made at the expense of minorities and women, and that they felt like that the character of Cassandra Nova wasn't fleshed out well enough, that she wasn't a strong, empowered woman, more of just a plot device. There's just a lot of that stuff.
Interesting.
I don't know. I mean, and again, I'm referencing this all like secondhand, but Hunter Iggy's asking if Batman should copy the White Eyes also. I don't know.
I saw a mock-up of Robert Pattinson's costume of the Batman with the white-eyed mock-up.
So Jay said Jay read the Brie thing also. So I also read that Brie Larson was upset as well.
Yeah, that's a weird one to me. And then my reaction, I told you, I would have loved to have seen She-Hulk in this movie, but to be honest, if She-Hulk was in this movie and the fourth wall break thing, that'd be totally fine.
Right.
I'm not somebody who's written. I know a lot of people did not like She-Hulk. I actually didn't hate it.
No, I didn't either. I actually thought it was an okay show.
Yeah, for what it was. I think it had problems, but it was okay for what it was. But I liked her as She-Hulk. I was fine with that. And I like some of the fourth wall breaking they did. I would have liked to see her in this movie. But the funny thing is if she was in this movie, they would have needed to like make fun of some of what happened with She-Hulk.
Right.
Like, that's just the tone of this movie.
Right.
So
and then
would
maybe
she
she
have liked
probably would
that?
not have been okay with that, right?
Yeah,
About
exactly.
how badly it performed as far as with the fans.
Yeah. And the making fun of it could be soft, tongue in cheek. Hey, like people, your Metacritic scores, or they could have went off about that, or angry internet mobs, or whatever. But at the same time, I think that would have been good. I saw some chats, and I won't highlight all of them, but I saw some chats, complimenting Cassandra Nova and the actress that played her. I think she did great.
I thought she did great. I didn't think she was a poorly developed character either. I thought she was a character that she grew up in the void. She was comfortable there, and that's all she knew. So, I mean, I didn't, I thought she was a good character.
Yeah. Chris had asked if there was one cameo you could have included, who would it be? For this specific movie. And that's for me, as a Cyclops fan, I would have really liked to have seen Cyclops in there, because I think they could have done some fun, and even I personally would have preferred like a non-Fox movie Cyclops, but also Fox movie Cyclops could have been really fun. And I'm somebody as a fan who thinks they trashed that character. But they could have made fun of him. They could have had him in it being a badass in the void or something. I don't know.
He could have been, they could have been like, Jean didn't kill him. Jean sent him to the void.
Yeah. And also
James Madsen, is that the
Famke Janssen, yeah. She's James Marsden as the Cyclops. Seeing Jean would have been another good one to see. And hopefully if there is an extended cut, maybe she's in it. She was asked a lot about it, and she gave answers that made it seem like I can't say I'm in it, but I'm kind of in it, is kind of the impression I got from her. But I actually would love to have seen her in this as well. Those are probably the two that would have been most fun for me. And I mean, to an extent, you could kind of say like Halle Berry, or you could say, but especially because Wolverine had the most personal interaction with those two. I'm very biased towards Cyclops, and I think there could have been good jokes there, even if the joke was you expect Cyclops to be some kind of how he was in the Fox movies, whatever you want to call that, and then he ends up being like an overly cool badass. That could have been kind of funny. Like, what the fuck? Like, when did Cyclops grow a pair or whatever, right? Like, you could have done some funny stuff there. I like
the quote in the movie, the Punisher, and it's like, which one? There's been like so 3.
Yeah.
Or 4 actually now, right? 4.
Oh, Brandon, you're a man after my own heart. And by the way, Brandon, that's X-Men 280 on his profile pic, and that is the first X-Men comic I went and bought at a comic book shop. And I've always got an affinity for Cyclops and stuff like that too. So I'm right there with you on the X-Men 97 landing. Realistic or not, it's one of my favorite moments of all time. I wanted to see Liefeld. That's actually a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
They could have like cut his feet off or something. That would have been hilarious. Yeah, like they had the Russian, and it wasn't even the guy that played the Russian. Speaking of the Punisher,
right? We could have had Nightcrawler, but then you had 2 actors played Nightcrawler. So.
Yeah. And what I there's so many of those people that were not played by the original actors. I think maybe even the actor that played Azazel wasn't the same actor. That's pretty weird.
Quicksilver would have been cool, but he would have been OP.
You would have been OP. I think the one that probably either seeing any of the live action Magnetos or any of the live action Professor X's would have been pretty nice. So, yeah, Toad wasn't Ray Park. But they had a different Bullseye, although he was the actor that played. Who was it? He's got some lineage to Fox. I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry, I forgot. But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, there could have been some interesting other cameos for sure. That would have been cool. Like I was halfway expecting Famke Janssen and Halle Berry and and all the X-Men to show up, at some point.
Oh, and by the way, in that list of characters we're talking about, Psylocke was in there, but it wasn't Olivia Munn, and it's other stuff like that. And it's, to some extent that
Was
doesn't
that
matter.
Psylocke? Was that
Yeah.
Psylocke? Okay, I wasn't sure if it was Psylocke or not.
Psylocke.
Okay, but she was on the bad guy side. But
yes.
Well, she was on the bad guy side in Age of Apocalypse, so
yeah, makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that would have been fun. I think that the cameos were probably the right amount, though. Even if it could have been a different combination of cameos, I think it was kind of the right amount. At some point, it was everybody under the sun's going to be in this damn movie, and that was too much. That was too much.
Right. It could have gotten over the top where it was like it got too much emphasis on the cameos.
Yeah.
So I think they had a pretty good balance.
I think we have to talk about No Taylor Swift. I think we're like obligated to mention that.
Right.
I never thought she was going to be in it, but that was a big thing for some people.
And then you were right, but you were right, but you weren't right. I mean, it was her voice, but it wasn't her.
I thought it was her.
I read it was the stunt double.
Oh, I thought it was Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool. Okay.
Yeah, no, I read it was her voice, but it was a stunt double in the costume.
Okay. And I know it was his kids playing Kid Pool and Baby Pool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, that's fun. That's a fun little thing, right?
That was, probably one of my least favorite parts was all the variants of Deadpool. I mean, the fight was cool, but just I was like, meh.
Well, my favorite moment of that whole thing though is Wolverine just has Dogpool and just walks across like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
He knows no one's gonna shoot at him after using Nice Pool as the human shield. That is actually, to me, legit one of the funniest moments of the movie.
That was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, Matthew McConaughey is Cowboy Pool. Nathan Fillion was Head Pool, right?
Yeah, there was some great voices, the voice acting.
Okay, he was Deadpool. Okay, yeah. Yeah, she got the credit probably for the voice though. So the funny thing about Dazzler, though, to me, it would have been hilarious if they put in Dazzler as anybody other than, obviously Taylor Swift. Put in Christina Aguilera, another pop star, whatever. I don't even care.
That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, I would have been down with that.
Blind Al was funny during the fight scene. I wish I was deaf.
Oh my god, it was great. Rob McElhenney. I heard he acted. So he supposedly played a TVA agent, but I also heard he wasn't actually even in the final theatrical cut, which is kind of weird because he was in costume. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
I saw an interview with Hugh where he's talking about the first time he came on set in the costume, and there was one of the guys on set. He said that everybody, entirely set just went pin drop, right? And then he's like, one of the guys on the set started crying. It's like, I waited my whole life for this.
When that person's son's name's Logan,
and his son, his son is named Logan. Yeah.
I mean, there's some amazing stuff there, and the last thing I'll say about the movie, it's kind of tangentially about the movie. The little montage of Fox stuff in the credits, like,
that was very nice.
I think it was "Time of Your Life" was the song playing or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just in my head canon. That was a nice little thing. It was. Some people are like pointing out, like, oh, why was the Fantastic Four reboot even in there or whatever, like stuff like that. But hey, I mean, I think it was kind of fun to do that. I think it was nice. I really, someday it'll be interesting to watch like the documentary that comes out about all those movies and behind the scenes stuff and all the Fox things.
Did you see the thing where somebody was like, "No, I've got to explain why people are so upset about Robert Downey Jr. and the Doom thing," and he's like, "We have precedent for other people playing a character in the MCU and then playing another character. We've got, I'm going to blank on names. Chris Evans,
Karen Howard,
Chris Evans plays Human Torch, and then he plays Cap. We have what's his name? Brian Jordan. I can't think of his name again. The guy who played Killmonger.
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan played Human Torch, and then he played
Yeah.
Killmonger. He says, now what people are really upset about is that we broke protocol, and Robert Downey Jr. didn't play Human Torch first.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I think there's so much good stuff and love there, but I also think that it missed a mark that maybe is a little lofty for me to put on it, but I feel like it could have been a really like over the top film that would be remembered for decades. And I think it missed that mark for me, but that's just
it's still going to go down in history as one of the best performing Marvel movies of all time.
It will.
Right.
But it's funny because even this movie has kind of supplanted some of the older Deadpool movies too at this point, as far as like I think it bumped a couple of them off the list, you know. So, and enough timeline, maybe this will get knocked down pegs too. Oh, interesting. Alfred Woodard played 2 MCU live action roles within a year. Interesting. Yeah, the Robert Downey. We talked about that. I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Right.
New topic. But I kind of want to wrap up the show here because we do have our producer from EXP hanging out in the backstage, having to run the switches, and it's getting really late. It's been almost a 3-hour stream. So
I talk too much.
No, it's me. I'm the one that yaks. I yak and yak, and I won't shut up. Can't stop, won't stop. But all the negative things I set aside, I really did enjoy it. I think there's something for everybody in there. I'm glad we could finally talk about it. That's really fun. The last thing I'll say.
Why was Thor crying though?
Oh God. I'm so tired of seeing articles about that. Like, come on, that's clearly Secret Wars or a joke. Either one. I mean, it's probably
totally. It's the sickest scene out of what was he's holding Loki, basically.
Yeah. Just one more hour for Chris. Okay, guys, we got to do one more hour for Chris. That's
okay.
The rule.
All right. Only if Chris jumps in.
There you go. It would never interfere on the show. Well, there's certain people that I've worried about if we got a 3-person panel or a 4-person panel going. Like Kyle. Kyle can talk a lot. I can talk a lot. You know, Big B can talk a lot. Travis can talk a lot. Us comic book people tend to talk a lot. You ever notice that?
We have a lot of opinions.
I love this question. Is there a Deadpool comic story that should be adapted into a movie? And yes, the answer is Merc with a Mouth. That's what I would like to see adapted into a movie. That's one of my favorite Deadpool stories. That's a very selfish answer, but that's my answer. Do you have an answer for that one, Bigby?
I don't have a favorite Deadpool story that I think should be adapted. Hunter Iggy, I saw that. 2 portals, one to the MCU, one to the DCU. Another time. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Good, Bad, and the Ugly from the Passane run's a good answer. Passane Duggan, yeah. That's a really good answer. But yeah, we are getting towards the end of the night here, so we did do the giveaway already, so we don't need to run that. Next week, we'll be back here on the EXP, which you might be watching us there. Big B McFly, the Comic Book Guys channel. Probably will be there. Most likely, there's a chance, and I'm going to say it for him, there's a chance Big B won't be here next week.
I'm working at 12 to 12, or a 7 to 7 shift for the foreseeable future, 12-hour shifts. So I'm going to try to get home quickly and jump on and not look like a pile of garbage.
Yeah, but we'll figure out something if you're not here, and you might be here. But that's the funny thing is, even if you're not here that week, I'm almost saying like you shouldn't come to the following show for that because of Terrificon.
I'm going to Terrificon. I'm going to be flying back into Portland about 5 in the afternoon, and then I'll have to jump in my car, get home, and I'll have more time actually probably.
Yeah, more time
if the flight's on time.
And I mean, also just having traveled and like, I don't know, that just seems like that'd be pretty rough. But hey, I don't know, maybe we can still make it.
I can't let down the fans.
Good point. The show must go on. But so, anyways, there's a chance Big B might not be here for 1 or 2 of the next 2 shows. So we might have a guest host, or we might have something else happen that might be a little different format. But hey, either way, I'd hope you'd still come back and check us out for here on Best Coast Comics. Last thing I'll ask is if you enjoyed any part of this show, go ahead and share it out to people. You know, we'd love to have more people in here every week talking with us. We love reading your comments. We love seeing what you guys have to say. I'd love to see more of that. So if you don't mind sharing it out to wherever you talk about comic books, I would appreciate that. I don't often ask that, but we have a lot of really cool plans for the show and things we can make happen.
Sure.
And the more we build it up, the more we can do. So I'd love to see more of that.
And the other thing, like what we've said a few times before, but if you're a subscriber to Bronze, but you're not to me or to EXP, please subscribe to them to, just fill in the gaps where you're not subscribed so that we can all be giving you all the content that we possibly can.
Yeah, I will say at least on Big B's channel and EXP, there's some great content. I don't know about my channel, but there's some great content over on their channels you should go check out. So I highly recommend that.
I'm only like 30 something away from 1,500. So come on.
Hey, that's awesome, man! Congratulations. Let's get Big B up in the numbers there, because it'd be nice to get him monetized so he can finally start making not enough money for doing what he does, which would be awesome. I say not enough money because they don't pay that great, but hey, at least they pay a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna try my hardest to go to Rose City Comic Con. I haven't missed a year since I started going. I'd love to go. They have
the door open for you for panel hosting there?
I so far no. I don't want to reveal secret sauce. There is another convention that I've been talking with locally that I might do panel hosting at, and you'll probably see me at Washington State SummerCon again next year doing panel hosting. So far not at Rose City, but that could change. I don't know. It might be nice. I'm going to try to go. If I do go, it'd probably be on Saturday. So are you going to try to go to that one?
Yeah. Keep me posted on your plans, and let's, we should be a dynamic duo. And we'll trio, me and you and Trav, and we'll make it. We'll get Chris, and we'll just be a mob.
Be a mob. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, Chris, if you can make it down, that'd be fun. I'd say the shows are kind of hit or miss for Rose City Comic Con. Mostly good though. Mostly good.
Oh, that's right. He had a promo code. That's right.
There you go. Absolutely do that. That's awesome. Use the code promo code tropes. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Everybody go out there and use that. Okay, so I'm going to play the little outro clip. I'm actually going to end the show a little bit differently than we normally ever have before, because it's related to what we were just talking about. So what I'm going to say before we say goodbye to everybody officially here at the end of the show is bye, bye, bye.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.